Welcome to Grog Talk. I'm James.
I'm Dan.
And where are we from today, Dan?
We're from the 9th layer of the abyss.
Ah, excellent.
Which is burning water, I believe?
Burning water, yes. And my comedy bit about the pool is not worth repeating. So, yep, we're still in the abyss. And I was telling you the 10th layer I'm really looking forward to. I don't know, should you anticipate going to deeper into the abyss? But it's called That Hellhole.
I love it. Which, as we know, was the second album of what are some of the Pseudo Undead?
Pseudo Undead, that's right. After sailing the Sea of Corpses, we went to that. We went to
Sail
that
away.
We went to that hellhole.
So no, but this makes sense. You know what's happening is the longer you stay here, you start to like it. I think that's what it does to you, don't you think? That's what's happening to you.
Hell ain't a bad place to be.
Right?
The Prophets, AC/DC.
Yeah. So I think that's what's happening. So yeah. So still in the abyss.
And we are super excited, even though this is usually a curse when I say this. We have a really special guest. We've had a lot of special guests, but today we're hoping to have David Zeb Cook on. Talked to him last night, so we're looking forward to seeing him at 10 o'clock.
Oh yeah, no, he needs to be here because you know I've done a lot of research.
Oh my God!
I listened to all those interviews.
I warned him.
I know you did. That's not nice. They think I'm a freak, which is accurate, but you don't have to let them know.
I did mention that you may ask him what the bond paper was of the manuscript that he created, the Player's Handbook, 2nd edition. That may come up. He said
it's important. You make it sound like that's not important.
Right. Was the... Yes. Oh, and so again, hello to everyone out there. Yes, we hope you have a lot of questions lined up.
I have a question for you, James.
Yes.
I noticed on the YouTube channel, sometimes guests will get an exclamation point, and sometimes they won't. Is that intentional?
It's no, it's poor quality control, basically.
Okay.
I have.
So our guests shouldn't be insulted if they don't get an exclamation point.
No, they should not be. I think sometimes, I've become that person. I'm trying to show excitement. So every time I'm just running around.
What are you doing back there?
You're welcome. Thank you. Well, no, they were talking about Oriental Adventures. So
I thought you were petting Goatalicious.
Well, I should pet. He's been lonely. So.
Have you seen Goat? Really? You want to pet? Are you familiar with Goatalicious?
Well, but he's part of the thing. Yes. I was just pulling out Oriental Adventures. If we do get a chance, I don't know if you're going to talk about that or not. So.
Well, it was 85, I think, right? It's
a little bit later, yeah.
It's hitting the limit there.
It is hitting the limit. So.
Although I stopped playing in 1985, I want to make it clear it was not because of Oriental Adventures.
Right. Well, one of our dear friends, Menyon, who was doing a lot of research on Oriental Adventures, and maybe we can get him on the show. That would be great. But
take a little bit of the weight off of me.
Right. Yeah, I think that would be wonderful because you are carrying the load when it comes to the interviews. I do all the other things, including random insertions of exclamation points.
Now, you know what I did, and actually I continued playing through the 80s, but no, I think that when you ask a question, I think they're actually relieved because it's a more normal, open-ended, more thoughtful question as opposed to a useless minutia. So. No, I think our interviewing style is it's a good balance. It's needed.
It is. We are the yin to our yang, or yang to the something to that effect. There's
right.
You complete me. I think we're supposed to have a hug now. So but we can't because that's against against all rules. Even though we are slightly opening up, which is great. I hope the rest of the world is. You're getting to see people. Everyone's got their masks. I mean, we're basically living like a century ago. This is crazy talk. But I digress. So we've got some announcements. October 9th through the 11th. One week I think, it's not going to happen. Then the next week I'm like, I think it may happen. So we're still planning for it. I know we saw some posts on Facebook for Crucible, and we'll know more hopefully sooner than later. I don't know if you have any more news on that.
No, I mean, I think like everything else right now, people are, waiting and seeing. So I think that there's optimism. The plan is to have it, but that's obviously, I'm sure that's subject to how things develop, and James and I, we're not the deciders in this, right?
Right.
We go as they go. So if they go, we've got GrogCon. If they don't, we know it's at James's house.
Right.
And so it's just wait and see attitude. So, attitude.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's very conducive if we do it at the hotel because everything's there. It's people can stay there, whereas here they're staying with you and a cat, whether it's Grizzly or someone else that you're sheltering. Can they fit in the little cages? That's really the question, because you have to be small. You must be this size if you're going to stay at Dan's house.
Only gnomes. Well, I'm a gnome friendly house.
That's right, gnome friendly.
Or human unfriendly.
So when you look at the hotels on Airbnb, there's a little gnome symbol to say that you're there. Ah, very nice. I like it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of up in the air with that, but what we're not up in the air with is the Grognards Guild Online, where DMs Brian and Josh, when he's available. Josh has been super busy, but Brian's taken up the mantle. He's playing every week. He played yesterday. If you're hankering for D&D, AD&D First Edition, and you're not, and you're available Friday nights at 7 p.m., give Brian a shout on our meetup, and he'll get you connected. So, that's a great opportunity, especially in these times of social distancing. It's hard to play games, and AD&D is not like it's everywhere. So,
in a time of uncertainty.
In a time of uncertainty, that's right. A voice cries out in the wilderness for AD&D.
A DM rises.
That's right. To meet the challenge.
Virtually.
But he does a great job, and it was a lot of fun to have him. And it was also fun to play with the Halls of Tiz and Thane, which I hope to post this week. I'm having a little struggle with my internet provider. Not my internet, our hoster, which again, thanks to our patrons, we're allowed to do. But the file is so long because it's a 5.5 hour file. I'm having to cut it up and put it up there. So that should go up. Okay. Giveaways. Well, once we get our Keep It Blood Red Falls stuff, Vic, he's not on yet, but when we get that, we'll turn around and give it away, which I'm super excited about, because I'm looking forward to reading the secrets of Keep It Blood Red Falls and then giving that module away, because again, for our patrons, that'll be awesome. We do have a heraldry coming up, not this time. I'm waiting for the person to claim their land, and then I have another person, so probably next week we'll do that. And no iTunes reviews. So we are ready for the random encounter.
All right, let's do it. You want to do the?
Well, we got to talk about this because I reviewed the tape, sorta, and if you recall, this has been a cluster since Charlotte was taken out by the Paracon after she killed the fire beetle. And we said, okay, we're starting over. So last time we started over, and we got an apparition, also, aka Big Appy, or Big Papa, the apparition, or something like that. And a jackal. Remember, we had a basic jackal.
Yes.
Then, of course, you rolled divine intervention, which I'm going to have to say, for a 10% chance, I feel like we've rolled it like every other week at this point. But
wait, what are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that it's the frequency of divine intervention seems to be higher than its probability. Not sure why.
What is that suggesting?
Well, sir, that's for you to decide. I'm just stating the facts that it is. If I went through all 58 episodes, I feel like, and also not all of them had divine intervention, I think that there should be about 4 or 5. I feel like we've done it like 27 times, but that could be wrong. Yeah.
Well, I don't like what you are implying.
Well, 10%
But,
is too high already, but then the fact that we've had a lot more. Anyway.
Hey, you're the one, didn't you? You raised it
I did.
for Loath. Hey, listen, if I was going to cheat, I would have done it for the roll for Loath, right? Come on, because that's what we were all waiting for.
We did want Loath.
The world waits.
That's right. In anticipation.
Right.
So then a Jackalware, we had Apshai. Was it Apshai? No, it wasn't Apshai. It was a Jackalware. Who was it was Anubis or the other deity, Osiris, one of the Egyptians.
They're all jackals.
They're all jackals. Jackalware came. We said he had an iron sword so we could fight him. They did the Monty, oh my goodness, the
Benny Hill.
The Benny Hill. That's what I meant, not Monty Python. The Benny Hill.
They're often confused.
That's right, because he couldn't hit the other one, and they started, and so the apparition ran away. But you made the call that, because we said, well, who won then? Because the Jackalware left after, and you said the apparition still is the winner, even though he ran away. So are you still sticking with that call? Because
who ran away first?
The apparition, because he can move at 24, because he couldn't attack.
Oh. He attacks. Oh, just once. It didn't work.
Right. So he ran away. He did. That's why he took off, and he was way faster than the Jackalware.
So the Jackalware's chasing the apparition. So that's right. The Jackalware. Why do I have Wile E. Coyote in my head?
Right. That's basically it. The Wile E. with the Acme sword and running around trying to kill the apparition who couldn't attack.
That's right. So okay. So wait. What are the options? I think we should roll a die. There's 3 options. Jackalware's the winner.
Right.
Apparition's the winner. Neither's a winner.
Right. Well, and Jackalware, remember, is a divine intervention. We've ruled that divine intervention goes back. So that's.
Oh yes, that's right. That's right. That's a good point. No, it's hard to call the apparition a winner.
Yes. Well, I don't want to say you were insistent during the show, but you're like, oh, he just because he ran away doesn't mean he was defeated. So
that's interesting, because I feel like I've taken sort of the probably the opposite position. See, I'm like Gygax.
Right.
There are some this much material.
Yeah.
There's going to be some inconsistencies, right?
Well, clearly. I mean, we don't. There's exclamation points everywhere. There's.
We should post this question on Dragon's Foot. Don't you think?
Okay.
Start a thread.
That sounds good.
I'm sure
no one cares.
I don't think any. I think that there's, sadly, I think there's no winners here. I hate to say that, because in this day and age, everyone's a winner. I think there's no winner here.
Okay, so we should start over.
Do you agree with that?
I liked starting over.
And this will extend the show, because we'll have two monsters.
That's right. It'll take twice as long, which is okay. Okay, so I just wanted to go over it just in case we were not clear on that, because we have folks out there who will call us to task if we do this incorrectly.
Well, we're working through it as we go. This may be a shock to many people, but we're kind of making this up as we go.
Well, I'm going to say that we do put some work into it, but probably not as much as we should. That's what I'll just say.
No, it's the opposite. We probably put more work into it than we should.
Well,
we don't put much in, we put in too much.
That's That's true.
Right?
We put it. Yeah, if you ask our spouses, way too much time. Do
you realize that when we're dead, really the only legacy we'll have, and it will not be much, the only thing really left out there of us, any memory, will be these YouTube videos.
Yes.
That's not good.
When the cockroaches are ruling the world and COVID is become sentient, the YouTube will still be there, and our children, forget about our posterity. They're not important. Whoever's left, the generations can come and learn about First Edition badly from us. Okay.
All right.
With that depressing thought.
We have 2 of them, so do we do a Dorso roll for each one of those?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, you want to do the roll?
Okay. Yes.
You do one and I do one.
Okay, great.
You roll yours.
Right. Sounds good. I am a 3, so that would be the Fiend Folio.
I have a 1.
Oh, Fiend Folio, double Fiend Folio.
Yeah.
All right, good.
The Brits are happy.
That's right. Well, are they happy? I think so.
Are they? I don't know if they are in general. Are they happier than Americans?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That could be a next Twitter thing. Hello, Britannia. Are you happy?
just checking in.
Just checking in.
We were concerned.
That's absolutely.
Okay, so we're each rolling a die 10. This is where the location. Oh wait, no, this is only B. Oh wait, are we both in the same location?
Well, how are they going to fight then?
Meaning if they're not, so we should just do one location roll.
I think it's one location, and then we have to roll twice.
All right. You want to roll?
Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. You want me to roll that? If you are doing chatty stuff.
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay. Oh, it's a 9. This sounds interesting, doesn't it? I'm turning. I'm flipping.
9 for yeah. Where are we?
We are in. Wait, I think we've been here before. We are in a tropical and near tropical condition. Well, of course, it would be tropical or near tropical condition, which make Florida very Florida.
Right.
We are in an uninhabited wilderness area. So now we need to know what the predominant terrain is. I need a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to die 10.
Die 10. Okay.
You want to roll a die 10?
I can.
So it's good. There's 9. So
7.
We're in the mountains.
Not Florida.
Not Florida. In a tropical or near tropical area. Okay, so now it is percentile. So we each are rolling percentile, right? Because
yes.
So we're in the mountains.
The tropical mountains of Florida.
I know, right? I was wondering about that. Well, is it a volcano?
It's like Costa Rica, I would guess. You know.
There you go. Right?
Yeah. 90.
I got a 97.
Ah, look at that.
Okay. So we're in the mountains.
I got to write this down.
You got a 90?
Yep.
You're a tiger.
Hey, tiger. Good. I am a tiger.
And I am a poisonous giant toad. Have we had a giant toad, or is that a frog?
I think we've had a frog. Did we have a toad? No, we had a toad. We did have a toad.
Wait, but did we have a? Oh wait, was it poisonous? I remember talking about don't lick it. Do we have? Oh wait, or maybe that was a different segment. Maybe that was our charisma, or that may have been our Valentine special.
Yeah, that's that. That's... Did we have a poisonous giant toad? Let's see. I think we may have just had a giant toad. That's.
Yeah, how would we even decide? Is that the picture of the guy getting eaten?
Yes.
Well, we've definitely had.
Yeah, it wasn't a frog. Page 95. We definitely it was but I don't know if it was poisonous. Oh, David says it was a frog. Okay, I think we've had both.
I thought we had both too, because we talked about that picture a lot, didn't we?
And then we looked at the frog, and it was accosting a gnome or a brownie, and so I was super happy about the one under frog.
I feel like we should.
It's up to you. It's your dice.
Well, I feel like we should. Well, I don't know. Shall we roll?
Yes.
1, 2, or 3. We're gonna go with poisonous toad. 4, 5, or 6. I'm re-rolling.
I like it.
We're rolling.
Yeah.
A 4. Is that a re-roll? I already forgot. I think that's a re-roll. All right.
Okay, it was a toad. Now it was a toad that we had, but we don't
know if it was a poisonous toad.
Yeah, he's. Some other people are saying you rolled it. It was well, anyway. You're re-rolling. Just re-roll.
All right. Okay. Ooh, 66. The number of Loth, right?
That is the layer.
This makes sense.
This
She's
does.
getting close.
We're getting Some would say we're already here. Go ahead.
A rock. R-O-C, right? That is cool.
Yeah, this is fair. Okay.
You're a tiger and I'm a rock. Oh, I'm gonna eat you, dude. I see you walking along.
Oh,
I'm hungry.
This is painful.
Now there's one that's also with a V. Isn't there like a Varrock?
Yeah, that's different. Varrock is like a bird man, if I remember correctly, and that's in Monster Manual 2. And if that's in Monster Manual 2 and you remember that, you need penance.
Wait, that makes no sense.
Oh, Varrock. Or is Varrock a type of demon? No, Varrock's a demon. I don't
Oh,
remember.
okay.
Now you got me confused.
I make things worse.
Yeah.
Just don't talk. Yes, it is. It's type 1.
It's a type 1 demon. Okay, yeah.
Is it related to the rock? No, it's ROC. It's VROCK.
Yeah.
And so there's
Vrock.
no relationship between the Varrock.
That's a shirt you're going to have to make. I want a Vrock. There you go. You should make your own.
Oh, this is very disappointing, though, about the rock. You know why? You know why I'm disappointed with the picture. Show the picture. You know why I'm going to be disappointed. I mean, it's not bad. Oh, you're doing the Varrock.
Oh, Vrock or the Rock? I'm sorry.
The rock.
So Varrock, I want a Vrock, is a type 1 demon. That is not what we're talking about. We are talking about Rock, R-O-C.
You'd be in real trouble.
The Vrock on page 18. The Rock is on not Dwayne Johnson. I don't know. Can I say his name without being bumped? We probably
have to pay him a nickel.
Probably have to pay him something. 82.
I have the rock clock on my phone. It wakes you up, and it says something. It's like, get up, get up, get up in his voice.
You smell what the day is cooking. I love it. Okay, so yes, the Rock. What is the problem with the Rock? It is not killing a human.
Exactly
right. It's killing an elephant. No one cares about an elephant.
Right, but you're gonna be a tiger. Basically, just replace the photo.
Yeah. So
it's an actual picture.
Can I just yield? Can I just throw in call it at this point? Why are we even doing this? But okay.
No, you got a family. You've got cubs back there. You gotta
fight for my family.
Them. Yeah.
So we're a tiger. I'm a normal tiger, I guess. Correct.
So let's look at tiger first.
And Rock from the Chamberlain of Australia says the Rock is from Persian mythology. How about that?
Oh.
This is why we're so fortunate to have people out there who actually know things.
Right. People, you think they're just waiting for us to hand the mantle over? Okay. Is there a chance you're?
Is that the grog line? Let's see. No, it's a pandemic update.
Oh.
That's okay. We're all still going to die. Got it. Excellent. Go ahead.
2 years. Is there a chance you're a saber-toothed tiger?
Well, it didn't say that. That's why I wanted to know.
Well, no, it didn't say that, right? I mean, I think I would have noticed that. Okay, so you are a tiger.
I'm a tiger.
You are uncommon. AC 6. So your hit dice are pretty good. And of course, the claw bite is always. It's not as good as poison, but it certainly can be a game changer. I mean, 3 attacks. This is going to be great. The rear claws. Is this where you're going to be able to grab me and then like a kitten or whatever, a cat? You do both of the. We've had that before.
By the way, you know what the name of this tiger is?
No.
Grizzly.
Grizzly was just around. Yeah, Grizzly. Oh, I do. Hang on.
Really, you're gonna go? It's my own fault.
Huh? Well, I'm not gonna turn her. My wife probably doesn't want me showing all over her house and filth. Okay, so tigers range from subarctic to tropical areas, for they are highly adaptable and superb hunters. They often hunt in pairs or family groups. Yeah, you're out alone. Big mistake. They climb well, can leap 10 feet upwards and 30 to 50 feet ahead in attack. Wow, wait, what? They climb well, can leap 50 feet upwards and 30 to 50 feet ahead in attack. Wait, does that mean do they need to be up high, or they can actually jump 30 to 50 feet? Is that what that?
Yeah, that's interesting.
That 50 feet?
Yeah, because I mean that basically you could read that saying because usually you have to be within 10 feet to attack, so you could say they could just leap at you.
Oh my gosh! You jump up and you can leap up 10 feet upwards, so it's coming down, and you're gonna leap up at me?
Yeah.
Could you imagine if you catch that footage? That would go viral on YouTube, don't you think?
I feel that feels like one of the movies where the thing, it's like Godzilla when he comes out and grabs the helicopter. It's the same kind of thing.
Yes. I'm just flying by.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't see you. You're in a tree, and you just jump out at me.
Well, we're gonna have to roll surprise or anything. So
that's true.
We got
if encountered in their lair, there's a 25% chance. That there be 1 to 3 cubs. I'm going to roll to see how many cubs you have back.
You want to murder the cubs too? Wow, you're just...
No. Just you have 1 cub. Oh, that's your first. These young have no effective attacks and are from 30 to 60% mature. When they score 2/4, I see this is what I like. When they score 4-paw hits in one melee round, tigers also get 2 additional rear claw attacks, each at 2 to 8. Wow. So if you get your 2-4, that's the 2 to 5, 2 to 5.
Right.
Right? So you do the 2 4-paw and the bite. And if you get the 2, you've got me. And then you're like kicking.
Right.
Like a kitten.
Right. Like grizzly.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Now that could be. Oh wow! So if you're so you're walking along, you're a first level fighter, and you're attacked by a tiger.
You're dead.
Yes, he's pretty accurate. I think Gygax got these stats right.
Yeah, you're dead.
You are dead. Okay.
All right, so we've got a bunch of things that are going to go on with this event. We've got aerial flying. We've got multi-attacks. So we're going to have to adjudicate some things here because, I'm sure that the group is going to weigh in on this. So this is actually a good example. All right, so.
Oh my gosh.
And then you're going to go to the rock.
Oh my gosh. This rock is like Dwayne Johnson.
That's what I said. I'm like, really?
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I've never dealt with a rock. The good news is they're rare. 1 to 2. Ugh. AC4. I beat you on AC. I feel it's a boxing match. Tail of the tape. I beat you on AC. So I'm very slow on the ground, obviously, but 30 feet flying. 18 hit dice.
Yes.
Wow. Number attacks 2 or 1, so we'll get there. And I'm animal intelligent. I wonder if you're smarter than me. Are you smarter than me? Tiger. You're intelligent. I assume it's animal.
You're
semi. You're semi. Okay. 60 feet wingspan. Okay, we're both large. Rocks are huge birds, somewhat resembling eagles. Yeah. They inhabit the highest mountains in warm regions. This would make sense to find it here. They prey upon large creatures such as cattle, horses, elephants, and tigers.
Well, it doesn't say that, but yes, we're apparently tigers.
We're adding that. I'm hungry, man. I haven't seen an elephant. The rock swoops down upon. You know what? Interesting though. It doesn't say though is it's particularly fond of human flesh.
Yes, that's too bad.
That's usually the standard, isn't it? They swoops down and carries it off to its lair. Wow, right, so the rock swoops down upon prey, seizes it in its powerful talons, and carries it off to its lair. If the creature resists, the rock will strike it with its beak. Okay, so hang on, I gotta start paying attention now. So it seizes its powerful talons. So does that mean that I've got to try to do talon attack?
You're gonna swoop in, because that's aerial attack, which we'll talk about in a second. You're gonna, you're basically a giant B-52 bomber. I mean, you're the Eagles from Lord of the Rings, basically, speaking of your favorite book.
Right.
You're flying in, and you're going to try to grab, and you're going to take off. You're just going to...
So I've got to do it. I assume I have to do that. I have to do a hit roll with both of those 3 to 18 ones?
Right. Well, I think if you hit twice, you definitely have them. If you have once, I'll have to try to adjudicate. Like for a tiger, I think if you hit once, you definitely grab it. But if it was an elephant, you'd probably need both claws.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I see what I agree. Right. Yeah, it's like you don't need both for a kitten.
Right. Well, it's like the Lord of the Rings where they're grabbing them. They don't really need 2 claws to keep us going. So.
And then I'm going to peck you to death.
Yeah, well,
if I don't get you.
Right.
4 to 24. The lair of a rock will be a vast nest of trees, branches, and the like. There its treasure will be strewn about, but the creature does not value such. It is the residue of its victims. Rocks are occasionally tamed. Oh my gosh, and used by giants.
Yeah, storm giants.
That's a great final line. Oh, is that storm giants?
I've used, well, because if you go into storm giants, because I ran against the giants recently, last year or recent, they will have 1 to 2 rocks.
Oh.
And that was the one time, they're playing against the giants. And, they've been slaughtering, depopulating the giants everywhere. The random encounter, it's a random encounter with the giant mountains. They run into a storm giant. They go, hey, I don't think we're going to attack this guy. Why? It wasn't because of the storm giant. It's because he had 2 rocks with him. They're like, yeah, they're like, we're not messing with rocks because... they will destroy you.
And there it is. Yeah, page 45. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Storm giants. Storm giants dwelling on cloud islands or mountain peaks will have 1 or 2 rocks, which they also employ as a riding animal. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So you could see like a rock. Oh, and storm giants are 1 to 4. So you could see 2 storm giants riding rocks coming at you.
Yeah. It's game on then.
Well,
Throwing
it's a very quick game.
Throwing lightning bolts at you. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's when you need the 25th level magic user, right?
Yeah, you need to be pretty high level there.
I think you're in trouble, James.
You need a dimension door. Oh, I am in trouble. The only thing that's going for me is I only get surprised on a 1. So I hope I surprise you, hit you for damage, and then do a lot of damage.
Oh, I missed that. Yeah, you're right. Special defenses.
All right.
Surprise only on a 1.
So you're flying. So we're gonna have to see. You're flying, and the surprise roll will determine whether you see me and you're gonna swoop in, or somehow I'm in a tree and you're flying by and I jump at you. That's basically what's
right. Well, you can get surprised. You're like licking your cub or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or I've been drinking and I'm like with my buddies and like, yeah, I took down that elephant. Elephant, I took down a rock. You've never taken down a rock.
Yeah, right.
Grizzly. Oh, come on. Let's go out there and let's find a rock. I'll show you how to kid him.
Well, I think you're about to get your chance, buddy.
That's right.
I see one coming.
So here's
all right,
initiative.
I'm going to roll, even though you don't trust me.
I trust. No. I didn't. Do not infer my statements. I just stated fact. 10% chance. If we go back and look at all of them, we've had more divine intervention than the average should say.
You said there's a 97% chance that Dan is cheating.
Not say that.
Based upon the stats.
That's leading the witness or something like that. Okay, here we go.
I got a 5.
I got a 6, so we're not surprised. So the scenario is more you have looked for a morsel and you're swooping in on me.
Okay.
All
so
right.
you got to do distance then, right, since we're not
surprised?
surprised.
Yes, we have to do distance. We are 100 yards apart.
Okay. I'm coming for you.
You are, because we're outside in the mountainous regions. So
yeah, I see you walking along. You see me.
All right.
I'm coming.
So here's initiative.
Okay.
2.
Oh, 1.
2. Okay. So the way I'm going to adjudicate this, right, is you're swooping in, and you're going to attack with your claws, and I'm going to attack with my claws, and we're just going to.
It's an embrace.
Yeah, it's like that thing. You see them kind of spinning around, right?
Yeah, it's just like a cloud. I see your tails coming out.
So you rolled a 1, right? I rolled a 2.
Some attack. Yes.
So you get 2 attacks. I get 3 attacks. So the way I'm going to rule it is because I won initiative. I'll get my 2 claws. Then you get your 2 claws.
Well, okay, because my understanding is that the splitting up the attacks is only when you have multiple attacks that are not natural.
That's true, but here we're kind of adjudicating. I'm good with whatever you want to come up with.
Oh no, yeah, no, you DM it. I don't like combat.
Well, yeah, the monster routines are supposed to happen at the same time. That's my understanding too. Though I haven't found that source. We've talked about it.
Hold on.
It's in your notes.
I've got the. Yeah, the many-page.
Oh, is that the Halls of Tizenthane notes?
Should we take a break? Are you kidding me? This thing's only like 20 pages.
Oh, okay.
Please.
Is that the amicus brief for the Halls of Tizenthane?
Yeah, right. Yeah. This is the supplemental filing. It was too short. Okay, hold on. Listening at doors, no. Secret doors, no. There's 2 pages of doors. Spell combat. Okay, hold on. You were
worried.
It's probably.
And you were worried about filling time,
right? It's probably in polyhedron somewhere. All right, let me say.
I defer to you. I agree. I think it makes sense the monster attack should happen. But go ahead.
Well, so it probably would take too long to find. I believe it's in the DMG.
Okay, I'm going with it. I like it. I'm fine with it. This is how the game should be. We just. If we don't know the rule or we have a vague thing, we just say, yeah, that sounds good. And then we can look it up later and argue it. All right, so what's your armor class?
My AC is a 4.
AC 4. Okay, so this tiger's 5+5 hit dice, and it says under my new Kickstarter, right? Rules AF footnotes. Any plus above 3 gives another hit dice. 6 plus 6 equals 7 hit dice. So he strikes as a 6 hit dice creature. That's super cool.
Wait. Explain that again. What's happening?
So his hit dice is 5+5. On the Dungeon Master's Guide, page 75, there is the attack matrix. If you don't have the Wheel of Fun, which I do have it, and I should use it, there's a note on page 75. Any plus above +3 equals another hit dice, i.e., and we've gone over this, i.e. versus EG.
I gotcha.
6 plus 6 equals 7 hit dice. This time it's important because 5+5 hit dice makes him a 6, which means he moves up. He gets basically 2 more pluses for that. So what's your armor class again?
AC 4.
AC 4. So the tiger needs an 11, and we've said we're going to attack all 3 times. He misses. That's too bad. He doesn't get the double thing. He misses. He's probably terrified. He's missed 3 times.
Yes. Poor guy.
Yeah, AC. So he missed. Now you go. So you're 18 hit dice. The chart doesn't even go that high in the original D&D. Ace.
Oh, that's weird. Because it's a monster manual creature. So
well, 16 plus is the most.
I rolled a 2.
To hit?
Yes.
Okay. What did you think you need to hit AC 6?
3.
A 1. As long as you don't get a 1.
No, wait, you said I needed a 1?
You needed a 1, correct.
Wait, a 1 would, because a 1 hit, it's not like a saving throw. Does a 1 hit, if I need a 1, does a 1 hit?
Technically. I thought somewhere it says 1 always misses, but I could be wrong.
Well, that's interesting. We know that's certainly true for...
Saving throws, it definitely is against that. And again, this is something we house rule because players insist on fumbles and double damage, which we've talked about. I don't think it's a good idea for them. If they roll a 1, regardless, then they fumble. Right. So yes, you hit with a. What did you roll? A 2?
I rolled a 2.
You hit. You get 2 attacks, by the way.
Okay, let me roll for my other one. Well, yeah, I need a 1, 12, so that's 2 hits.
Right. So we're going to say that you have swooped up the tiger at this point.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I've grabbed you.
So now do your damage.
5, a 5, a 4. That's 14 on the first one.
Okay, I'm going to roll his hit points while you do that.
Oh my. And 13. That'd be a good character if we were just doing the straight 3 dice.
5, 12, 18... 23, 28 hit points is what he had. How much damage did you do?
Uh-oh. I did, was it 14 and 13, I think?
Yeah, yeah, I guess. Lines?
Yeah, I think it was 14.
Okay. So, actually, so you're flying away now with the tiger.
Yes, I've got the tiger.
But if you did 27,
yes.
I think you did 14 and 13. That sounds about right. So he has 1 hit point right now.
Can I peck at you?
While you're flying?
Yeah, why can't I reach down and not lift you? Can I
You're just gonna like a mouse, you're gonna throw him up and then peck at him? Or
you don't think I can while holding the tiger come down?
Well, you're flying. That's gonna be... I mean, I guess you could lift, kind of peck down, but won't you tumble through that? But okay, let's...
No, all right. I could drop you.
That's what I would suggest.
And then I come down. Yeah, I can tell that you're in big trouble. Well, yeah, I think I am going to drop you. Yeah, well... I'm going to fly up to about 200, how many... 200 feet.
10 feet does 20d6, so... Because we use the doubling rule, right?
Right.
1d6, 2d6. We don't do it straight 10 feet per 6, so...
Right. So, yeah, I mean, you have 1 hit point. Yeah, I'm just going to drop you.
Thank goodness the people are keeping track. Yes, they both confirmed it is 27 hit points of damage.
Thank you. So, I'm just dropping you.
Okay. Well, you could do that. That's your attack. So let's roll initiative, because I'm going to try...
You have 1 hit point.
I'm not dead. That's what's great about D&D.
Wait, how can you... Oh, so wait. But wait a second. Surely I go first. You have initiative. You've subdued.
No, you
I'm
haven't
dropping
subdued
you.
me. I haven't. I'm still.
I'm holding you. Oh,
I
you're
got
like,
what? I'm
what
gonna
are you
try.
doing?
I'm gonna try to break out of your hold. I'm gonna claw you.
Oh, okay. All right, gotcha.
I'm gonna try. I think I'm gonna get a minus. I think that's.
Are you committing suicide? You're gonna fall.
Well, I'm dead either way. I read the monster manual. It says you're gonna peck me to death.
Hey, but you know what you get on the way down? Divine intervention.
That's right. All right, so here we go. D6. Here's my initiative. 1.
4.
Okay, it doesn't matter. So you're gonna drop me, or you?
Apparently, we both were doing the same thing.
Yes. That's
It's
right.
in the history of D&D, it's the only time in Melee, if you call this Melee, that both parties wanted the same thing to happen.
Yes. That's right.
You were like, "Let me go." Okay.
Okay.
Wait.
Whee!
I didn't realize. Wait, we're off the air. We're off the ground.
That's right. Oh.
I didn't realize.
All right, so I'm rolling divine intervention. I'm not going to roll my 20 d6 damage.
All right. Yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, I see. You're rolling for divine intervention. I
Right.
gotcha. No, I'm not inferring anything from this.
Yeah. So
Why would I?
if I roll divine intervention, then I retract all my previous inferences.
Exactly.
47. So no.
Ooh.
There's
You should let me roll.
surprisingly no divine intervention.
Yeah,
All right.
you should.
So we have a new winner. Clearly a rock.
The rock is going to, see, this is really bothering me. So I'm continuing to flip through the DMG looking for the natural attack thing. Where do they even talk about multiple attacks in the DMG? I mean, clearly there's got to be a place.
Yes, they talk about multiple attacks, yes.
Where is that?
But probably we should go to episode 6 where we talk about this. So
We'd have to watch it then.
I've watched it multiple times. I just forgot. Blah, 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 blah. Where would it be?
Because I'm in like the 69 to 72, and I'm
Yeah,
not.
that's always that's a good place to be.
I'm struggling though.
Yeah.
You guys want to see a kitten? Come here, kitten.
Wow, has it come to this where we're
Yes, it has.
Here, multiple opponent attacks.
What page?
General notes page. It's under general notes. Why would it be? Oh, I'm sorry. That is incorrect. That is under weaponless combat. I was looking in the wrong area.
Is the Chamberlain on?
Yes, he's on.
Come on, Chamberlain.
Cat's
Help us.
land. Oh, some people are saying does the cat have a chance to land on his feet when he falls 200 feet to his
Ooh.
death?
Oh, and then does he have 9 lives?
Yeah.
We're going there. Yeah, that's a good point.
To me, that's divine intervention. That gets all rolled up in divine intervention.
Well, that's fair.
I think at that
That
point,
would be,
I think
okay.
the cat lord would have, just said, "Here's your straight 10% chance of something, happening where you survive that."
Well, there's a chance. There's a chance. There's a trampoline. There'll be a lot of stuff.
Right. I think at that point you're asking for, trouble. I don't remember where it is.
We can't find it. This is terrible. It's ridiculous.
We're not able to find a whole bunch of things. I know it was under. Could it be under strike blows again? I don't know. Does it matter? The rock won. Everyone else, we'll look it up later. Page 62 is what the Chamberlain says.
Oh.
Oh, here it is.
Where?
Of course, initiative for creatures with multiple attack routines.
Oh, initiative. Oh, why is it under initiative? So when one or more creatures involved in combat are permitted to use their attack routines twice or more often during the round, then the following initiative turns are employed. Wait, now that doesn't seem to... Oh, wait, somewhere...
Yeah, it keeps going. On the midway.
Okay.
Note that...
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah. No, you go ahead, because you found it, right?
Yeah, it was talking about claw, bite. Note that a routine is the attacker attacks usually to the creature concerned, i.e. a weapon or weapons for a character or a claw, bite routine for a bear. Now here it says, extrapolate for routines that occur 4 or more times in a round by following the method above. So it's saying here it actually would be split up. So we're gonna have to read this later. I'm not gonna. I guess we have to read the whole thing now.
Where do you see the 4?
Note that a routine is the attack or attacks usual to a creature concerned, i.e. a weapon or weapons for a character, a claw, bite routine for a bear. with incidental damage assessed as it occurs. The hug, for example.
But that means, so a routine is, this is for, so he doesn't have multiple attack routines. It's considered a routine.
Right.
So this rule only applies if you have multiple attack routines. The Claw Claw Bite is a routine, right? Note that a routine
Yes.
is the attack. So the Claw Claw Bite is a single routine. That's the way I read that.
Well, then what do you do with the fighter who gets multiple attacks? That's a different attack routine?
Yeah, so it's so if you get, yes, I think that's right, right? When one or more creatures involved in combat are permitted to use their attack routines twice or more. So if a fighter gets multiple attacks because of his or her high level, that's multiple attack routines. But a Claw Claw Bite is like a single attack routine.
Okay. So what we're saying is a fighter, like it says, it has multiple times.
Right, because that's each swing. Well, whatever. Each attack is a routine. That's the way I read that.
Yeah. So what you're saying, the Claw Claw Bite is a routine. It's not 3 separate attacks.
Exactly.
It happens at once.
It's 3 attacks within a single routine. Whereas a fighter who attacks, let's say, twice every round,
goes first and last then.
Exactly, because that's 2 routines. That's the way I read that.
Yeah. I think that's how I've always seen it played. If they have a routine, they do it all at once. If it says 3 attacks, Claw Claw Bite, that's their routine.
And let me explain to you why I'm a fan of that rule. Simply because it's a pain in the arse.
Right, the other way.
The other way, yeah. If it's multiple attack routines, it's a pain in the butt then, because you're splitting it all up, right? And it's so.
Well, and that's where initiative, everything else gets problematic. As soon as you have things that happen more than once, whether it's a bow, or when fighters get to 7th level, or if you use the book that shall not be named, you let them use specialization. All that causes issues with that. So yeah.
It's kind of why I like party initiative too. Now, I don't feel strongly about it, and I know a lot of people dislike party initiative. But the nice thing about party initiative is, okay, we each roll, each side, and then whoever wins just go around the table,
Right.
As opposed to who's up next. And it's not a big deal, and I know a lot of people really like individual initiative. But I don't know. I just like the ease of party initiative. But okay, so you're falling.
I'm dead. I'm not even rolling the 20d6.
Oh, that's right. You already rolled it. She didn't have it. Splat.
Right, splat. There's no falling, no landing on his feet, no 9 lives, just splat.
Right.
So.
And now I'm like a buzzard. I feast on your flesh.
Right. You take the remains back. It's jellified remains. All the bones have been crushed.
Oh, and the cub. What's going to happen to the cub?
The cubs are now going to starve to death.
Just one. He's lonely. He keeps waiting for food. Where's
Simba.
Daddy?
Simba, right? What's his name? The Tiger King. Get it? Oh, I'm so funny.
Yeah. Well, Mom is still there, I assume.
How do you know? Maybe this was the mother. Maybe the father went away. This was the mother.
Oh. All right.
Why did you assume that
You're right.
You assume the tiger's gender?
Do female tigers hunt like that, or don't they stay with the cubs?
I would assume the female tigers are the hunters.
Oh. Well, Dad may have been killed by a rock first.
Well, he was a Rolling Stone. He did his business and moved on.
Ooh. He's got a lady tiger in every port.
That's got to keep moving.
That's right. All right. So there it is. So okay. So what's it gonna take in the future to beat the? I mean, so we went from. Hey, what was it? We had a really pathetic little.
We had a bunch of small ball things. We had a spider. We had toads. We had these kind of things. We've had buccaneers, and now we have a rock. We're back to the premium level.
What? Back to the top of the mountain?
Yeah.
What's it going to take? Are you going to take poison? Some with poison?
Poison's always a game. Like you said, it's a game changer.
Okay.
Well, we didn't think a red dragon would lose, and an ancient red dragon, and somehow that lost. So you never know.
So this is a mountain rising out of the abyss, this ocean, this burning ocean, a mountain rising out. Okay.
Right. A jungle hellhole. Well, that's next level.
That's next week. That's our next episode. Oh, you need to title it that.
Episode.
Hellhole episode or whatever. I don't know. You can work on the details.
That's right.
That's episode.
That's one thing where, let's see, the that
That's not very nice.
hellhole episode.
No, that's not nice because we're supposed to have Ernie Gygax on.
Oh, that's
He
true.
might
Yeah,
take it personally.
He's like, what?
We need to warn him. This has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, I don't think he'd appreciate that.
Right? Okay.
All right. Well, very good. Peter. Now they're naming the rock. I thought Dwayne would be the name of the rock.
Yes, you think it names itself basically, right?
Right. Well, there's the biblical one. Peter's biblical.
Okay.
There's Dwayne. There's
Could be Johnson.
Could be Johnson. That's right. So I guess that's more work for me. Twitter. Which, by the way, we were talking about group initiative. There was something on Twitter where people were discussing group initiative versus individual initiative, and that while group initiative seems faster, it's when you inject all these other variants, like you said, the multiple attack routines, and if it's simultaneous, and I think I like group initiative because, look, there's two, like we talked about in the combat episode. There's two ways you can really run combat. You can have it be a very tactical thing. Again, it's almost like bullet time. Everything slows down.
Yeah.
And and what's good about it, it becomes a collaborative game. It's not just a bunch of individual people running around doing their thing. The other way is to be fast and furious and really emphasize, no, you don't get 35 minutes like we've talked about. All right, goblins, you stand over there. We go behind and we start figuring out our game plans, and then we get together. I think both are fun. It just really depends on the play style. I think you should have a little bit of, hey, it shouldn't take you 35 minutes to figure out what you're doing. But you do want some planning because the party is, we as players are living the life of the character, and the character knows a lot more than the player does in their circumstance. We're a professional fighter, versus a player. You've worked with this group together. It should have some tactical, expertise. But I think the line is, and it's different for every group. How much time should they take between each round? And I think the way we do it is a good balance. Someone's in the box, they go first, they say what they're going to do, and we generally try to dissuade people from, well, I'm not going to go till this guy goes, or and everyone says what they do, and the initiative, the people after start figuring out what they're going to do based on what the first person decides.
Right.
Which I like. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. So there is some options, and because we do the rotating lead initiative, it's like Texas Hold'em. Everyone gets a chance to be the dealer and kind of see what everyone is doing. So it avoids, and it also encourages, before you get into the battle, perhaps you should plan before you do that. So.
Right. Yeah, because real hardcore would be, okay, everyone, write down on a piece of paper
right.
what you're going to do and pass it up.
Pass it on. And then
hey, no talking.
That's right.
I saw you too. No talking.
You're not the caller. Don't talk to me. I cannot speak. I cannot speak to you. All right, spell selection.
Spell selection. So I just want to say I foresee the Rock being a champ for a long time until Poison comes along. Okay. So you want me to roll for percentile here? For the what kind of spell this is? It is a 55. I'm assuming that's magic user.
Still a magic user. Okay,
so now I'm rolling. I want a 91 or higher for illusionist.
That's correct. Right? That is correct.
Oh, 84.
That's close.
I don't cheat. I don't think we've ever had an illusionist
spell.
We've had
illusionist spell.
Oh, we have?
We have.
Okay, so now is it, there's 9 levels of
That's
spells?
Right.
Are you impressed? I'm actually starting to remember some of these things.
That's going to be the one benefit. You'll actually know what's going on. That's good.
Right? I'm still struggling with recognizing the 10-sided versus the 8. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got the 10. 2.
2, okay.
We're in my neighborhood.
That's right. You should know. And so there are 24 spells, so D12 and a D6.
Okay. A 3 on the 6-sided and an 11. So that would be 11.
Right? 11. Lehman's Trap. Interesting.
Oh. Is that, and so Len Lakofka I think he's got to have something to do with Leomund, right? Because isn't Leomund's tiny hut was Len Lakofka's column in the Dragon magazine, right?
I believe so.
Okay, so I wonder if maybe anyone out there on the Twitterverse knows about, why I said Twitterverse, in the chat room knows about the origins of Leomund's
trap.
Leomund's trap. Oh yeah, Leomund's trap. Is this the one that's the fake trap?
Yes.
You think it's a trap, but it's not. Okay. You know what's something that we don't do a lot? Because it happened in a game I ran recently. I think it was Halls of Tizenthane, when the thief wanted to set a trap. And if I recall correctly, the DMG talks about setting traps,
it does.
right? That thieves do that. It's something that doesn't come up often, right? You think of them as usually, of course, finding and disarming traps. But thieves, right? Thieves can set traps as well.
They can set crude traps, simple traps, I think was the term that was used.
Okay. I thought that was very clever play by the player. Now you got to remember it on the way out. I forgot to roll for that. Remember, if you're like me and you keep forgetting about the scythe.
That's right. Page 20 on the Dungeon Master's Guide. Simple mechanical traps can be set by thieves or assassins.
Okay.
And their chances to do it successfully is equal to that of the chance shown for detecting such traps. But here's the difference. This is the only case where the assassin operates at an ability level equal or 2 levels above his or her own level.
Oh.
And exactly as
equal or 2 levels above? Equal or?
That's right. Equal to, let me read it again. But in this case, the assassin operates at an ability level equal to 2 levels above his or her own, and exactly as if he or she were a thief, e.g., as opposed to i.e., a 5th level assassin has the same chance of setting a trap as a 7th level thief does. So
that's nice.
So in everything else, the assassin is 2 levels less. In this case, they're 2 levels higher.
No, that makes sense. So the thief is like, hey, baby, I find traps. And the assassin's like, I make traps. I set traps.
That's right.
That makes sense. So would you not, would this be like a role, typical thief ability role, which is behind the DM screen and the player doesn't know it? So how would you rule that the thief or assassin setting the trap is unaware of whether or not he or she has done it successfully until he or she sees whether it's set off or not?
Well, this is very exciting because there's it's nothing like running a fast game. So let's use that role-playing example at Halls of Tizenthane. You want to set a trap, right?
Yeah, they wanted to set a trap on the way behind them.
Right.
So if anyone coming behind them would be, which I thought was very clever play.
So which is good. So at that point, we should have stopped the game, and you require him or her to furnish you a simple drawing to illustrate how the trap would function.
I did ask. I think in my defense, I did ask Basie, what kind of trap are you setting? So I did not ask for the drawing.
Simple drawing, which of course, based on your thing, would be to scale, with on vellum.
An actual model.
That's right.
Get out the balsa wood. But so this is tough. Wait a second. I'm role playing. I'm not actually a thief or an assassin. I did not actually train. That would be kind of rough.
Irrelevant. Isn't it? Irrelevant. You need to.
The rules. Gygax says it. He's looking at us.
He says this very clear. You must make a simple drawing. If the chance to successfully set the trap results in failure, there's a chance of causing injury to the trap setter, just as he or she had set the trap off. Oh,
so what I should have done was, so I did roll behind the screen. I can't remember, because I think I knew it was the same percentage. And so I guess you just sort of ballpark it that if you roll like a 98 or 9 or whatever, you decide that the trap's been set off on you, right? I guess that's basically what you just got to ballpark a number. Yeah.
Well, based on the drawing and based on their ability to tell you about the drawing. So it's Shark Tank for traps. You have to pitch the DM on this trap, right?
And you're like, oh boy, man, that's like any number that you fail, it sets off. That's terrible.
Yeah, because then you adjusted the success based on that. You can make
based on the drawing and how good of a trap. And so now I'm supposed to figure out I as a DM also do not have training. I probably have less training as a thief and assassin. So now I'm supposed to assess? This is horrible.
Right. And modification can be adjusted up or down according to the complexity and danger of the trap. So if they make this giant Rube Goldberg machine, you can...
Like a Grimtooth trap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, they pull out the Grimtooth book. This is my drawing.
That's right. 5 hours later. So yes, so there you go. So anyway, that's a trap. Sorry for that diversion, but...
This is an illusion or a phantasm.
I like it.
Wait.
Which you can't cast as an illusionist. You can't.
Do I get it as an illusionist?
No.
That's crazy.
No.
It's an illusion.
Doesn't matter.
Seriously?
Nope.
Where? I want to confirm that, but I think you're right. Okay, that doesn't make a lot of sense. You're right. That makes no sense. Can I have it?
No.
Please?
No. Make a drawing. Please submit a brief. No,
It's like a patent.
Right. What's right? The patent. Well, what you could do is do a spell research there, and you could make your version of it as an illusionist. That's what you would do. It'd be called Dan's Trap.
That's true. Exactly. I do a phantasmal force to this trap. Okay.
Yes.
So Lehman's all right. So it's this false trap is designed to fool the dwarf.
That's what I love about this. It talks about the dwarf.
What? That's racist. What? That's hilarious.
Not the greedy gnome.
So they basically, Gygax is basically lumping dwarves in with all thieves.
That's right. And/or thief attempting to pilfer or otherwise steal the spellcaster's goods. It enables the magic to place a dwemer upon any small mechanism or device such as a lock hinge, hasp, screw-on cap, ratchet, etc.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still laughing at dwarf. That's got to be the best line that I've read so far in any of the Holy Trinity. Oh my gosh, that's great. Okay. So, all right. To fool you. All right, attempting to pilfer. It enables a man. So in other words, hey, I'm not a thief. And so I don't know how to set an actual how to set an actual trap. So but I'm just a magic user, not multi-class. So I'm gonna set it anyway. It's a fake one. All right. A dwemer upon any small mechanism or device such as a lock, hinge, hasp, screw-on cap, like a Coke bottle, ratchet, etc. Any examination by character, ever check trustee, 80% likely to note. So that's another reason why you got to roll behind the screen, right? Because if you only have a 55% chance to roll 72, and you're like, yeah, you see, there's a trap. You're like, wait a second. This probability reduces by 4% for each level of experience of the examiner. Right. So they get better, right? If So's trap is then removed, it is only 20% likely that the creature attempting it will believe he or she has succeeded. Okay. Of course, the spell is illusory. Nothing will happen if the trap is ignored, and its primary purpose is to frighten away thieves. Oh. So it's obviously, it's not going to do. So it's not an illusion that causes damage. Like illusionists can cause damage.
No, this would just be you'd be terrified that you'd be setting off the trap. Now, who has to do the illustration for this trap? Because of course someone's going to try to set off the trap. So what kind of trap is it?
Well, now technically, you don't have to do a drawing. You're joking, aren't you? Are you not, DM?
Well, I detect the trap. They're going to ask me what kind of trap is it.
Well, that's true, but you don't need a drawing.
Are you sure?
That'd be the DM. The DM would have to. Well, the DM because.
Well, this is a spellcaster, but yes, it could be a NPC magic user, but it could be the player.
Yeah, but the player's doing it's boring because it's just back at their cottage, right, where they're protected. They're going on an adventure, and so I better cast Liamins.
And right? So I would require them to draw an illusionary trap. Tell me how your illusionary trap works, so that if someone comes upon it, I can then determine how successful they'll be in disbelieving it. Because maybe you do a crappy job of putting the trap diagram, and so then people are like,
no, you're going to adjust the 80% based upon my crappy drawing?
That's right.
You're like, this is so obviously not a real trap.
That's right. Okay.
So, yeah, no, I got to tell you, that's kind of boring. So, it's not bad. I guess you litter, so your dungeon with these. So if they're, there's always the evil magic user somewhere in the dungeon, right?
Yep.
Room 42 or whatever. And so I guess you're going to, after you kill him, you go to his, and they say, yeah, it's trapped. And so I guess you can't. Oh, that's right. It's 80% chance that you think that you've been unsuccessful. Yeah, you're like, okay, no, you can't disarm it. And so then, yeah, but then they just don't. Doesn't the party just batter in the chest or whatever?
Yeah.
They know. I mean, can't most parties avoid trap? I mean, have you ever had a party who knew there was a trap? Either set it off or simply wandered away. Like, have you ever had that happen?
I've never had one leave it. They will do something. In fact,
yeah, they know there's treasure there. That's kind of a pathetic party, isn't it?
Right.
Like, oh, yeah, that treasure chest has a trap on it, and your thief can't disarm it. They're like, oh man.
Yeah.
I guess we're going home.
Yeah, that's it. Well, that's kind of what we had our adventure this Wednesday, and it started. We had to find a secret door, and the joke was, we didn't find the secret door. I guess that's it, because that was the opening to the adventure.
Do you remember that happened one time? I can't remember, what was it? I was running a Judges Guild adventure, and you had to find the secret door, and you guys couldn't find it, and I was playing it straight, and everyone missed their roll, and you guys just went home.
That's it. I guess we're done.
I remember Doug on the way out, as he's walking by me, he looks at me, he goes, "Yeah, that adventure wasn't very good." He just walks out. Like, oh man.
That's actually a pro tip. If we've heard about people having to do a spontaneous, the DM's calls in sick, is not available, and you still have a game, and they say, "Hey Dan, you want to run the adventure? You ready?" "Oh yeah, sure. All right."
Yeah.
You're in a tavern, you get a quest, you find this, it's like the Moria thing, right? You stand in find the mines of Moria, but there's no way to open the door. They don't know.
Yeah. All right, you guys ready to call it?
And they spend hours trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I got a show on at 8. So why don't we just call it?
Yeah. All right. That was great. Great game, guys. Thanks.
Hey, and the good news is you don't have to figure out experience points.
All right. That was simple.
It's easy.
How much you get? None. You get nothing.
0.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, you didn't die.
I'm not a fan. I don't think I've ever used it. And the only thing that's odd is, why couldn't it only be on it has to be separated within a 50 by 50 foot area.
Yeah, that is interesting. I got to tell you, I would probably use it simply because waste not, want not. I've learned about it. I feel like I should use it. So I probably would use it. I'm very bothered by the fact that illusionists can't have it. So there's two things that I take away from this. Number one, illusionists can't have it. I don't understand that. Gary, I wish he was here to tell us why. Number two, because illusionists already don't have enough stuff. They don't even get an illusion spell. Seriously.
Right.
And secondly, the line about the dwarf is fantastic.
Yeah, that's a keeper. That's the only redeemable part. I agree with that.
That alone made it worth having that spell, don't you think? In the book.
Yes.
They're just
greedy dwarves.
They're greedy thieves.
Greedy thieves.
I love it. Dwarf and or thief. That's the new line. Dwarf and or thief.
Well, and the whole illusionist versus magic user spells and how they slot in and out is still kind of, it's all over the place. Like you said, that's a spell that is not an illusionist spell. Audible Glamour is a second level magic user spell. It's a first level illusionist spell, but Ventriloquism is a first level magic user spell, but it's a second level illusionist spell. Why would it be a second level? Ventriloquism should be easier than that, but okay.
Yeah, it should be an illusionist
cantrip. That should be a cantrip. That should be like
right?
a standard skill. You can throw your voice, basically.
Exactly.
But then Lehman's Trap is not available, so it's all over the place. So I know everyone's going to be shocked, but there may be some inconsistencies with how this was done. We should have asked, that was the thing we should have asked Jody about. Did she, when she was typing up the player's handbook?
Oh, it may have been her fault. Is that what you're saying? She screwed up.
No, I wasn't going to go there, but I was going to I was going to say, did she identify this and go, hey, did you notice that this spell is an illusionist spell, but is not, illusionists can't have it?
And more importantly, if she didn't, why didn't she?
Right.
She should have. What's wrong with her?
That's the Nuremberg trials. I'm sure she'll want to come back on.
That's right. Can you imagine if we asked that? We have a question. We noticed that, yes, that Liam is tiny.
Have you no shame?
Trapper. You got to speak up.
That's right.
There's some things you just can't be silent about. I don't care what your job description is.
Evil flourishes in this world because good people say nothing.
Yes. I mean, she clearly typed open paren, illusion/phantasm, close paren, right?
Right.
Isn't that true?
That's right. All
right.
Yeah, so it's very disturbing. And somehow I went, 50 years of my life, and this is the first time I've seen it. So, okay.
That's what this show does.
It does. It brings back a lot of craziness. Okay.
Okay.
That's very good. Next. We even though we're dead, I still think we need to do the Gnome illusionist thing.
Well, because this is about education.
Right.
This is about learning how to properly play a gnome fighter illusionist. And clearly,
no one in our group.
The fact that we're all dead is the reason why we need to continue. We obviously have not learned very well yet.
Correct.
Okay.
So for those who, I know not everyone listens to these sequentially. Last time we did Gnome, what would you do as a Gnome illusionist? And we all died. The Kelly Villamere's epic treatise on playing a Gnome illusionist fighter went from, you take 2 hit points to 3 hit points, you're dead. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead.
And what I liked about it is that like he switched things up, right? Some people were dying because it wasn't an illusion,
right.
And then in some people he suggested it was an illusion,
yes.
And then he suggested it wasn't. Basically, he was lining you up for a TPK here. That's what happened.
Well, there were correct answers. We did not have them.
That's true. That's true.
And
hey, listen, that was not a criticism.
No.
At all.
No. I'm okay with it, but we need to keep going.
Right.
Because we didn't finish, so we should probably at least finish it out.
Okay. Here we go.
We have 2 left, if I remember correctly.
Okay. The first clause is gonna hurt a little bit. Okay. After getting by the gelatinous cube.
Well, the only thing that got by is we've passed through the gelatinous cube as excrement. That's about it. We've been dissolved.
Oh, that's true. Popped out the other side or something?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, he just took like our swords. We're naked and afraid. Okay.
Yeah.
You know by your map that the clay golem should be right up ahead beyond the next door.
Hey, we have a map and we haven't been using that? Okay. Interesting. Okay.
I think another NPC, so Rob Ritchie created the Link Boy NPC.
Love it.
Love it. It's a winner. Best NPC since the Necromancer. What would you think about this?
Mm-hmm.
And now I know this is going to be very controversial. What would you think about a high-level Link Boy or Link Girl?
Right.
So I'm talking what? I think 4th level is the max, which I agree with it. If half-orcs can't go for 4th level of Cleric, Link Boy should not be going beyond 4th level.
Right.
What would you think about at 4th level, maybe once a week? The Link Boy is able to cast a light spell.
Absolutely.
Oh, you're on board for that.
Sure.
I didn't know if you were like, well, wait a second, where's the Dweomer-Nissi? He's got no Dweomer-Nissi, right?
I think at that point, if you've survived that long, you have some favor from the deities.
Yes. And you know what we need? Because, I love these things like Unknown Gods from Judges Guild, and Osric has put out petty gods. I love that stuff. There should be like a Link Boy petty god, don't you think?
Right.
He's got like 40 hit points.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, okay.
Well, for Link Boy, that is a god.
That is, right? You ascend. So like the highest ever, there would be a great backstory, right? With this Link Boy who survived and made it to 4th level and then ascended.
He was the Link Boy in Tomb of Horrors. He was the one who survived.
Yes.
He's the one who recounted all the tales of the heroes.
Oh my gosh. This writes itself. That's gold.
That's right. It writes itself. So that's why he became the patron deity of Link Boys. But yes, he has a light spell. I agree.
Okay, cool. Well, listen, we just suggest.
Right.
That's up to Rob Ritchie. That would be like us telling Lon Lakafka that the archer should be changed or something like that, or Lou Pulsifer.
Very true.
The necromancer should.
Very true. Very true.
All right. So by your map that the clay golem should be right up ahead beyond the next door. You think to yourself that there must be another way into that room, as Garth didn't have much success against the golem that way. Oh, we're thinking. Surprise is the key to defeat. See, if you'd survived this long, you would be thinking like that. We would not be, because we're dead. Surprise is the key to defeating the creature you think. A 4-way intersection is right before you. Straight ahead, the golem behind the door. To the left, a dead end. To the right, a small creature appears flying towards you. About 2 feet in diameter, this thing appears as a hairy ball with 2 bulbous eyes, small horns, and a 3-foot-long tail. Oh, okay. Is it pink? It simply floats toward you. Oh, it floats. You remember, Garth told you. Oh, it floats. Come on. You remember, Garth told you about these volts, which killed 3 members of his party. I don't know what a volt is. I should have asked him. He said volts, and I didn't think to ask. Just before he reached the golem. Okay. Garth told you about these volts.
So volts should be, I think they're in the Fiend Folio.
What are you doing?
Oh, we don't want to look at it? I was just going to tell people. Yes, they're in the, I didn't look at it.
Oh, I know. With a yes, they got, yes.
I'm just letting people know they're in the Fiend Folio, but I did not look at it.
Because if you don't know, you don't know.
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know anything.
I don't either. All right. K1, attack immediately with sword. K2, use Ring of Lightning on it, then attack with a dagger. K3, cast invisibility and run past it with mace in hand. K4, use Paralyzation Scroll on it, then run around it to golem with sword in hand, just in case. No, just in case. Period. K5, cast Dispel Illusion or use scroll with same spell on this obvious illusion. Then walk towards door to golem with dagger in hand. K6, spray on it. Then K7, use Ring of Lightning on it, attack with mace. K8, use Ring of Lightning on it, then attack with dagger. And K9, throw dart at it, then attack with sword.
Well, that was the winner. One of those. So we'll let our people choose again. So there's 9 choices.
Yeah. So there's 1 is attack immediately with sword. 2 is Ring of Lightning and attack with dagger. 3 is cast invisibility and run past it. 4 is paralyzation, then go to the door with sword in hand. 5 is dispel illusion. 6 is color spray. 7 is Ring of Lightning and attack with mace. K8 is Ring of Lightning, attack with dagger.
All right, David's
9,
doing 8.
Throw dart at it, then attack with sword. Okay, so the Chamberlain is doing number 8.
Brian's doing 4. And here's what I'm doing, because I actually don't know. I'm going to roll 5. Whatever 5 is.
Okay, 5 is you're going to cast Dispel Illusion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
Yeah.
And then okay, so
I would have picked that. I would have picked that anyway, so that's good.
Would you? You know what? I haven't attacked. I'm just going to do K1. Not a lot of these attacks have caused death, right? You usually take some hit points of damage. I want to save up my stuff for the big bad. So. Even
though this thing has killed 5 for Minion. Minion and I are doing 5, so look at that. I feel much better.
Okay.
Anyone else? We got 25 seconds. 20 seconds.
I'm probably dead. You're right, because he did kill 5.
He killed 3 other party members. But the dice don't lie. I'm doing 5 as well. All right.
Okay.
Let's start. I don't hear any more.
K1. Kill it after taking 4 hit points of damage.
There you go.
See, what I'm doing here is I'm getting in the DM's mind. This is important, don't you think?
Yeah, you're in there. You got into Kelly's head. That's good.
I did, exactly. K2. Lightning, and did anyone do lightning? I don't think so.
I think David Thompson did the Ring of Lightning.
Okay, because K2 is lightning has no effect.
Yeah,
take 15 hit points of damage before killing it.
That's 2, so that's okay.
All right, 3. It works, no damage. What was 3?
I forgot.
I do too. 4 is same as 3. So 3 and 4, no one did it. 5, this is you, right?
Yep.
And somebody else too, right?
2 others.
Okay, wow. This real creature does 13 hit points of damage before you kill it. At the end of the day, we really have switched. I've redeemed I am dead. But other than being dead, I've redeemed myself.
That's right.
Okay. 6. 7. doesn't
Hold
work.
on.
Take 8 hit points of damage after.
We didn't hear 6. Do 6 again.
6 is creature blinded. You kill it and take no damage. So that was very good.
6 was good.
Yes. Was that you? No, you were 5, right?
I was 5.
7 is lightning doesn't work. Take 8 hit points of damage after it bites you before you kill it. 8, same as K7, except 10 hit points of damage. I think.
Oops, sorry, David.
Yes, oops.
But it's 10 is better than 13. We took.
and 9 is dart misses and you kill it after taking 3 hit points of damage from the bite. Now this is interesting. Is this the first non-monster manual creature that I think we've had?
I think
in this
so.
First encounter?
I think so.
So what is a vault? Can I look? Now I got to look.
Now you can.
Vault,
well,
right?
You're the DM. You can do whatever you want.
Well, at first I thought it was I thought it was a sturge, but when it floated, then I'm like, oh, it can't be a sturge because sturges don't float.
Page 94 of the Fiend Folio.
Yeah, there it is. The Vault. Oh, yeah, okay, only 2 plus 1 hit dice. 1 to 4, 2 to 12. This Curious, yeah, of course. What a shock. So it's the Fiend Folio starts with this curious monster, but dangerous little creature. Mm-hmm. Oh, they're cute. Appears as a near spherical bundle of bristly gray hair with 2 bulbous eyes, 2 small curved horns, and a 3-foot-long tail. Yeah, just as he described. It floats as if by levitation. Okay. At first, you didn't do maneuverability. Were you supposed to do maneuverability on the on both? No, on the random encounter.
Wait, there was no maneuverability because you just swooped in and picked up and left. If you would have missed your attacks, then you would have had to come around.
Right, like the World War I airplane.
Right.
We've talked about. Okay. It first attacks by propelling itself towards its victim neck and biting. 1 to 4. Oh, so it's going for the neck. Successful bite means that it is locked onto its victim neck and cannot be detached until dead. All right. It drains blood. Wait a second. Oh, and a jolt. Come on. So this is like this is like the horror movie Son of Sturge.
Son of Sturge, exactly.
I mean, we got the Sturge. Do we need the Volt?
Well, it's slower. That's the only good news.
Okay, and when it's got electrical, the tail produces a jolt of electrical, and so it's got like a, what do you call this thing the cops have?
Oh, taser.
Taser. It's got a taser. The tail produces a jolt of...
Don't tase me, bro.
Don't tase me. Don't tase me, Volt. The tail produces a jolt of electrical energy each time it strikes for 2 to 12 additional points of damage. Oh, so wait, does it get... So what does it do? It first sucks on my neck, and then it also gets to... Oh, wow.
So, and once it attaches, it requires no to hit roll either for its bite or its tail attack. So then you're dead. You're dead.
Oh, if it hits you, you're in massive trouble. They're bad temper.
But the redeeming for the thing of the vault, just in case you didn't know how it worked, you can go to page 95.
Oh, yeah. Good picture there.
Right.
I like that. Yeah.
There it is. And that's the Earl Otis picture. So there
Didn't we have a vortex? See, the vortex is next to it. Didn't we do the vortex?
We did the vortex. That's right.
I like the vortex. You're just walking along. You're like, oh, why are those leaves kind of spinning?
That's dangerous, too.
It's really dangerous. Yeah, we had a vortex. Wasn't a vortex a random monster?
I think it was. And we then used it in one of our tournament modules. Which, again, apparently we're going to have a rock and we're going to have tigers and other things like that. So...
Right.
But that's good. Well, we only have one more time, and then have you ever been a gnome illusionist shall be done?
Wait, is that true? Are you sure?
I thought you said there was one more.
Hang on, I think there may be 2.
Oh.
It never ends. Oh, no. It's because that was K. No, we have 2 more. We have an L and an M.
Okay.
And then someone's going to have to find another first encounter man, right? Hey, I was thinking about, what do you think about first edition, like Jeopardy?
First edition Jeopardy?
Like they like that? Would they not like it? Too trivial, too competitive? People get upset. They're losing.
I think people would. I think people would love it.
So like I'll take half orc for 200, James.
Yeah, it would have to. But you would have to. You'd be Alex Trebek in this. So
I could be Alex Trebek.
That's right. You'd have to put. It'd have to be witty.
Oh.
Like the names of the things.
Like dwarves and/or thieves.
Yeah.
Go delicious.
Right, the titles. It was, hey, go delicious, or and that would be greatest of all time, and then I'll take goats for 600.
Okay, so it would be all right. So it'd be related to the show. Is what
Now,
you're
is it
saying, right?
D&D? Well, yeah, if it's going to be straight Dungeons and Dragons trivia, that's one thing. I thought it would be related to the show, but we'd have to figure
It
it
could
out.
be like a hybrid.
Sure, there could be a GROGTALK column. It doesn't have to be the whole thing.
Now but you in IT would be responsible for having the Jeopardy screen
Of course,
splash up there.
yeah. That's why I think you like this idea, because it would
Exactly.
do more work for me.
I'll send you the questions this afternoon. You get to work on that.
Yeah, I'll get right on that. The fact that I did what we talked about, which will be a surprise. That's right.
I can't wait.
You won't
excited.
be able to see it till later. Until you come back.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you don't see it. It's behind the scene.
Oh, I'm so disappointed.
But you could turn on YouTube.
No, can I go on the break and go on to the YouTube channel on another computer and
yes,
back up?
Yes, you could. Yes, you could.
I'm going to do that during the break.
Okay,
so
good.
Excited. Okay.
All right, very good. So next on our list of things, we talked about turning undead. There was a question about a live play channel. Someone wants us to set up a separate channel to do live play, which again I think would be super great, but Dan and I don't have the bandwidth to set up so if people want they want us to stream, like we did the Halls of Tizenthane, they want a separate YouTube channel dedicated to first edition live play, which I think would be super cool, but we would need a lot of help to do that. So if people are interested, they're going to have to send some at info@grogcon.com and tell us, basically use this illustration and design this, what they're willing to do, because I don't have no problems setting up the YouTube channel. I have no problems, but running a campaign and running live play, that's a lot of work. And that's something I don't think Dan and I are up for. We struggle with what we've got as it is, let alone doing that.
Right. I mean, I struggle to remember my Skype password.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a challenge. There was also viewer mail wanted to know, would we do an episode on high-level domains, strongholds, mass battles, etc. I'd be happy to do that. I would say, and I'm speaking for you, Dan, that's really not a specialty of yours.
It is not.
So we'd be interested in talking about it, but I'm not sure. Sometimes I think people think we're authoritative.
You're authoritarian.
Well, we are the emperors, but
That's true.
I mean, I can give you my experience when I ran it, but this was a long time ago, and talk about the materials that are out there. So if that's something people are interested in, once again, info@grogcon.com, and we'll put it on the schedule. So another question, we talked about 5e1e. We got to do our Naked and Afraid. That's the last thing. But I think you mentioned this one time, but there was a question about porting basic modules or Dungeons and Dragons Basic to First Edition. And that was something that you did when you started up our group. You took Keep of the Borderlands and you made it into, but you ran AD&D. Is that correct?
That is correct. So I didn't recall ever having been through Keep on the Borderlands, and I knew how famous it was, and I wanted to learn about it. So that is the adventure I picked. I got to tell you, I came to regret it. Not because it's not a good adventure, but it's long. So I thought as an introductory adventure, it'd be basically, it'd be short. But as for people who know about, obviously, the Caves of Chaos, I mean, you can spend, we were ready to spend an entire summer going through just that adventure. And I needed a little bit, I needed to mix it up a bit. But so when I got back into first edition AD&D, the first adventure I ran was a basic, and so I did have to convert it. But I don't know, James. I'm sure you've done. We can talk to Zeb Cook about this, right? I mean, because he, of course, wrote, he did the expert set and wrote adventures for the expert set. It was crazy easy. There it is.
That's right.
It was crazy easy to convert it. So the differences are quite slight on the right? Because what are the differences? The differences are the monster stats, right?
There's monster stats. Well, there's I mean, it's relatively easy, and I'm just looking at my 10 or 15-year-old repair job of using twist ties and tape. That's my advanced restorative skill.
Your trap. Your trap.
Skill set.
Yeah.
So, that's not heretical. And in fact, someone said, are we going to go over BECME, which of course is Basic, Expert, Companion, Immortal, whatever the last one is.
Well, I'm hoping that the people so don't count on me to do a lot of that, because as you know, I never played the Basic or the Expert. I just played first edition. And so I know, James, that was yours. So you played it.
Yes.
Right, that's where you started, which makes sense.
I had both, and I think like a lot of folks, we kind of mixed and matched. We liked the idea of advanced. We didn't want to play basic. Basic sounded childish. We wanted to play the advanced one, and it had cool books and everything. But there was there's some rules that seemed ridiculous or was so complicated. We used a lot out of the basic book. So. I think when you convert a basic module to AD&D, some of the things are pretty obvious. One of the things is armor class. It's very similar, but in basic, it doesn't go to AC 10. It goes to AC 9 is one of the examples. The spells work a little differently. Morale is done differently. It's a simple 2d6. Turning is done differently. But really, everything else, it really depends what first edition you're converting to. If it's old school first edition, not the book that shall not be named first edition, it's relatively straightforward. You don't have to do a whole lot to change it. Some of the magic items are a little different, so you kind of have to go through, like there's what do they call it? A couple of the magic items, they don't have an exact equivalent. Like there's a staff of healing, if I remember correctly, that there's really no such thing as a staff of healing, if I remember correctly, and I could be mistaking that now. But it's generally relatively easy. There's no exceptional strength, so if you have your character, they don't have that in here. I'm just looking at real quick. But generally you could run it as is and not have too much issues. The hit dice of the creatures is similar, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and if I can mention, so that was the only thing that I had to make decisions on, if I recall, were the monster stats. So because hit points are often given, right? I assume in B2, Gary gave the hit points. And so then you have to decide, well, if the monster in first edition has a different number of hit dice, should I adjust the hit points, or do I just go with the hit points that are given? And I think I kind of was like, who cares? I think I went with the hit points that were given because they weren't all that different. And if that's what Gary thought was an appropriate number of hit points, then that was fine. And the damage, I think I did adjust the damage. So I sort of mixed and matched. And so it was a little clunky. But here's the good news, is when you're playing the game, and you played it in B2 when I ran, didn't you?
Yes.
Or no? Yes, okay.
That was the first time we played together. You were
okay.
I came in a few sessions after you had started. Yeah,
and so when you're sitting on the other side, when you're the player, you don't know anything about monster hit points or whatever, right? You're just, hey, I'm fighting a spider, and the DM tells. So you got a lot of freedom as the DM, I think, to change stuff. Because, the reality is, if you love an adventure, if you love B2, for example, it's the adventure you love, not the stats and the mechanics and the specific, right? It's you like the idea and the character, the NPCs, and so you just kind of run it, and you just adjust. So I don't know. I never had a problem. Look, I ran, as you know, I ran OD&D adventures with first edition. The only thing that's interesting with some of those older adventures is they really do tend to be kind of Monty Hall.
Right.
The amount of gold in some of them, and the
gold.
magic items.
Magic items. The magic items you gave out. The one
The
with
one was
Tim the
you could-
Wizard? What was Tim the Wizard? Wasn't there a Tim the Wizard? What was that one?
There was Tim the Wizard. That was in that was in, I think, that was Borshak's Lair,
Yeah.
I believe. And there's one where you couldn't be struck with any edged weapon or something like that, or piercing weapon, and so that's the kind of stuff that sometimes you got to adjust. So for me, the difference is not so much. The issue isn't always so much what system's being used. I mean, like, who did we have on the show? I can't remember who we had on the show who said they don't even play a system.
Yeah.
They just play. We were like, which edition do you play? You're like, no, we just play.
Right. You just figure it out.
Right. It was is some of the magic items and stuff that are, if you're playing from a different era, you're playing from the mid 70s. That's not the same stuff going on in terms of magic items that you would expect from the early 80s, I think. So we started getting kind of the anti Monty Hall adventures, I guess.
Right. It got much stingier. But it was interesting. So, for instance, there are some differences. Like the Potion of Gaseous Form, I do recall, because there's the famous picture in the Moldvay book, page 48, and I'll show that, where the armor's laying there and you see this gaseous cloud. In the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Potion of Gaseous Form, if I remember correctly, by imbibing this magical liquid, the individual causes his or her body, as well as what it carries and wears, to become gaseous. So in AD&D, if you do gaseous form, all your stuff goes. In basic, your stuff gets dropped on the ground. So people would hate to have, I don't want to use gaseous form because I'm literally naked and afraid at that point to do that. So
watch my stuff. It's like when you go swimming and you come back and like your clothes are stolen.
Right, exactly. Who wants to do that? So, so there's some slight those kind of things, and then you just have to decide which one you like is more interesting. But I think the exceptional strength, that's a change. You probably should look at the hit tables to see how much different the to hit is, because again, part of if the mechanics are so off. It may affect that how difficult the monsters will be. But B2 is a pretty deadly module. If you're not careful, it's pretty easy to die quickly in it. But it's the ogre hit dice is the same, 4+1. I think a lot of the stats are very similar. But there's the Thule, right? If you remember correctly, that's a monster that's not in the monster manual.
I don't remember the Thule.
Yeah, I don't know if it's in the module itself, but in basic, there's a Thule, which is like a half ghoul, half hobgoblin, or orc, or what was it again?
Oh, that's come up before. Yeah, I don't think there was a Thule in B2.
Yeah, a Thule.
Not that I recall.
A Thule is a magical combination of a ghoul, hobgoblin, and a troll.
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
So it's in here, but there is no equivalent monster in first edition Monster Manual, which is really cool. I don't recall. They're saying, was it in the Fiend Folio? I don't recall it being in the Fiend Folio.
I have no not memory of a Thule, and I know we've talked about this before. Yeah. I don't think the Thule. How do you spell TH?
Yeah, it's ghoul. It's with a T instead of an H.
No, there's a Thork.
There's a Thork, yeah.
Throat leech. The tiger fly.
Yeah, I don't think it ever made that. So there's minor things like that. But if you are so inclined in past our time later, which again, I don't know, was Zeb still? I know he was still with the company. Was he part of this?
He was there to 94.
Yeah. So this book I acquired recently. I'm pretty super excited. This is the Rules Cyclopedia. So it's basically the Beckme rules in one. This is, a lot of people consider this the Desert Island D&D book because you have one book, it has everything in it. You do it, and there is rules if you need them to convert basic games into AD&D. Now, in this case, this is second edition, but a lot of things are similar. So the characters you'd have to change. It says, another big change is elf race as class. So like there's an elf class, there's a dwarf class that doesn't exist in there. Again, the AC is the same, except it goes to 10. Alignment obviously is another one that changed. You went from three axis to a 9 axis. So there's some nuances, but again, the game's the same. So I'm just kind of looking through it real quick. But yeah, so if you're interested, on Appendix 2, there's a way to, if you need it, you can convert it that way. So it's not very hard, and there's a lot of cool, famous modules. B2, B1, I mean, all the B series is famous for adventures.
Castle Amber, which I've not run, but Castle Amber is loved by many. Right? That was a basic.
That's right.
Or called Mold Bay Base.
Chateau de Amberville, right, or something like that.
Is based upon, right.
Yeah.
So no, I never. I mean, there's a little bit of a pain to convert, but not much. So no, I mean, I think that good adventures are good adventures, right? And so basic OD&D, I was using all of those. So I was using Holmes Basic, right? I've run Holmes Basic Adventures, the Treasure Barlon, which was the TPK, the Chapel of Silence, Dragon Magazine.
Now that's one thing I will say. I mean, at least the basic modules, they're all introductory. They're for 1 to 3, and while there may be a white or a Thule or something like that, some of these other modules, whether it's Judges Guild or Holmes Basic or something like that, they're super deadly and they give out stupid treasure. It's like what Jim Ward said. He's like, yeah, I'm a Monty Hall thing. I try to, I have super challenging things and I give them tons of stuff. That really is old school. I mean, I think I was a second level magic user and we found scrolls of limited wish. Multiple.
Yeah, so Chapel, and right, and it was a vampire.
Yeah, there's a vampire.
And
it's like, what? We're first level. This is a vampire. Even the OD&D vampire, which is not as powerful as and that's where you have to be. That's where the metagaming is interesting because, in this version, the Chapel of Silence, the vampire I think it was based on OD&D or Holmes Basic or one of the two, and the vampire is not nearly as powerful as the Monster Manual AD&D.
So that's you do have to watch out about. So check your shots, and that's hard because if you're a new DM, you don't always know, right? I think the most important thing in a development of a DM, perhaps one of the most important, is starting to understand balance with play. Because when you first start running, you don't understand it, right? I mean, I used to stress tremendously about, like the old Judges Guild Adventures wouldn't tell what level should it be? Is it balanced? The more you do it, of course, you get a sense. It's like teaching when you start to understand what's a hard test, what's not a hard test. I think you tend to do things harder at first or not realize they're harder. So, you do need to watch out for that. You do want to check the monster stats in the 2 and make sure that it wasn't a lot easier than what it's going to be in the version you're running.
Well, and everyone has to understand that language. So, I don't have a problem with the vampire at first level. There needs to be a way that the party doesn't have to fight the vampire or be captured and there's no way to escape, because then there's no hope. If there's a way to avoid it, if there's a way to, quote unquote, accomplish the mission and not, attack the vampire, great. Because you'll have 2 groups. You'll have some groups are going to attack the vampire. They know it's a vampire and they're like, oh, we're totally attacking it. I'm like, okay, well, you're totally going to die.
And you only need one party member to do. I charge. You often have the one party member, right? I charge.
Yeah, our 2 weeks ago in our campaign or our group, Lane was running for us, and one guy charged, and all of a sudden, by the end of the battle, 3 people were dead because it was a cluster after that. So parties never retreat; they tend to attack people, even if it's in front of them and there's no talking, they fight. So that's where I think the DM needs to understand, because a lot of times I think it's a mistake we all make, and beginners even more, is, oh, I want to show the big bad guy. You know, I want the Darth Vader to be, and later I want them to fight him. You know, I want Darth Vader to come and kill all the, you know, kill Uncle Ben and Aunt Beru, and so you have motivation to get him back. But the players don't want to do that. They want to attack.
Indeed. All right. Do we have time for a quick Naked and
Yes,
Afraid? I mean,
we
just
do.
to see what happens. So this Naked and Afraid is a segment where we did Dimension Door.
We did Dimension Door, correct.
And we learned that if you screw up on your Dimension Door, you end up, was it
if you
astral, ethereal? What do you end up?
It's in the astral plane.
So you end up in the astral plane.
Right.
And so
I just looked it up because I knew you were going to go to this. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So and why are you actually naked?
No, you're not naked. That's what you. That's what you wanted. On page 76.
That's awkward. Okay, 76. So yeah. So I'll get out the. So we need an astral or ethereal. What should I be using? Monster Manual 2.
Yeah.
Oh wait, huh?
Astral.
All right. Okay, so astral plane, you say? All right. So you've screwed up on the Dimension Door, right? There's a percentage chance that instead of going, Dimension Door is basically kind of gatey, right? You're trying to head somewhere?
Yeah, well, it's a special form of teleportation that you can't die from. Remember, we talked about that's what was great about it, is unlike normal teleportation,
right,
where you can go very far, if you're not very familiar with where you're going, we have a chance regardless of being killed instantly. Where this, you don't have it.
In a wall or something?
Exactly.
Right.
This, if you go into an area that's occupied by a solid body, he or she remains in the astral plane until located by some helpful creature. Which again, it's interesting why it's using the astral plane. I would have thought it would be the ethereal plane, because that would make more sense, since in theory it's surrounding the prime material plane. But I digress. So, do you have the astral plane encounters?
I do. So it's on page 138 of the Monster Manual 2, but I got to tell you, it's not looking like there's a lot of friends on this table.
No.
Are there any friends? I mean, so dudes can just be traveling. Human Traveler, that's what we need. So we got a shot. Oh, an 11, and that's pretty good, because it's 2 to... Oh, is 11 the most common number? Because, with the 2 to 20, you have a bell curve.
Right, exactly.
Of course, because you're using 2 dice,
that's right.
which is... Something's very interesting. You got to think about that, right? That, I mean, the switching from multiple dice to a single die is significant.
Correct.
Because it changes from a bell curve
it's not a linear thing. It's a bell curve.
No curve, yeah. It's flat. So all right. So we got a shot. So we've erred. We've gone into something solid.
Correct.
And that sucks. So we're like in the wall of a castle or something, and we need help. All right.
We do.
So we're afraid.
We're afraid. We're not naked, though we may end up being naked. That's the thing. Oh, hold on. I'm gonna call him back.
Oh.
Hold on a second.
Zeb's probably watching the show, being like, "Man, I need to bring this to an end."
That's right.
We need to get to intermission. Well, I'm going to roll while you're doing that, all right?
Yep.
So 2 to 20. So that's 2 10-sided dice, obviously.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a D2.
I've got a 7.
Would you roll a D12 and a D8?
Oh, wait a second. I'm sorry. Wait. Oh, yeah, wait. Why was I doing... Oh, I was doing a... wait, it's 2 to 20. I was doing a... it's 2 10-sided, isn't it?
No, it's the same thing. It's the D8 and a D12.
I haven't even think. Why can't it be 2 10-sided?
Because it's a different bell curve for that.
How do you know? Oh, that's right. They actually tell us that, don't
Correct,
they?
Yep.
Got it. Sorry. All right. So what am I doing? You always do those rolls. I've got a 12
D8
and
and
an
a
8.
D12, correct.
Got it. Yeah, that is a different bell curve, I guess, isn't it?
Yep.
So let me do those stats. All right. So it's a 6 and a 5. Oh, we got a shot. It's an 11.
Okay,
it's a
human traveler.
Okay, and then there's 2 asterisks there. Use the dungeon random encounter table for turning and flipping. In the DMG, with the following modifications, party size will be 1 to 6 with no limit. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're using the dungeon random encounter tables in the DMG.
Yes, of course we
Where?
are.
Okay. What time is it?
It's time to wrap this up in 2 minutes because I'm calling Zeb Cook back.
We're gonna be saved, and you're gonna do our bumper, which I'm so excited about.
Yes.
So, wow. So we go to the dungeon random encounter table. All right. So random encounter table, not outdoor. Turning, we're flipping.
Yeah, so you go to character suitable
Where are you?
on
I'm
page
lost.
175.
Oh, look, there's astral and ethereal encounters.
Yes, there are. That's where they're originally there, but same thing. It says go in the random encounter tables and the following modifications. So,
Hey, wait a second. There seems to be more stuff. Is there more stuff on... Why do we have different tables?
well, they're just because these incorporate Monster Manual 2 and the other ones just have the first Monster Manual.
But things are missing.
That's true.
Where's the Chiron?
There's no Chiron. That's right. This is kind of sucky.
What?
So
Yeah.
So you want to roll again?
You think we should do the DMG just percentile?
Yes.
All right, we'll do it. Make it move things along. Yeah, I don't like that table. All right, hold on. 86. A Shidu.
There you go.
Are they nice? So what's
Yes.
coming at me? I don't know anything about Shidu. Oh, you should have told me.
Shidu's
Oh, we're gonna
good.
be saved?
Yes.
We're gonna be saved.
We would be saved. Well, if you're a good party, you would be saved.
We assume we're good, right? I assume we're not evil. We're like a...
Right. We're just stupid because we dimension doored into a wall. Yeah, page 87 of the Monster Manual guide. Monster Manual.
So we wait around. Oh, yes, lawful good.
Yes.
Oh, travel seeking the end. So, yeah, so it sees me, and I'm like, all right, so all's well.
This
That
time
ends.
you'd be fine.
I'm saved.
Hello, traveler.
Hello, sir.
That's right.
Do I speak?
No, you're stuck.
Alignment
You're
law.
helping.
I'm aligned. Maybe if I'm lawful good, alignment time.
Actually, we should roll your alignment. See, because if it's lawful neutral, then
All right, we'll start. Well, no.
We're not doing that. All right. So, welcome back. You all went to the lobby, got your stuff. Very nice. Congratulations, Dan. You got to the lobby. And we have a special guest today. So, Dan, while you're chewing your Raisinets, why don't you introduce our guest today?
Okay, so it's our pleasure to have on the show today Zeb Cook. He worked as a designer for TSR for 15 years, from 1979 to 1994. Two of the modules that he wrote were ranked by Dungeon Magazine among the 30th greatest D&D adventures ever written. He, of course, also wrote the Expert Set, as well as second edition AD&D and the Planescape campaign setting. So, Zeb, thank you so much for being a guest on GROGTALK.
Oh, happy to be here.
Great. Well, so and we should tell you. Oh, there it is. We had the GROGTALK fans were clamoring for your appearance. So this is...
They don't know what they've asked for.
Well, they'll find out. So Zeb, can we talk? Our show, of course, it focuses on first edition AD&D, but we certainly want to talk about the Expert Set and second edition as well, since those, of course, were your creations. Could you take us back to the mid '70s and just tell us a little bit about how you discovered D&D?
Oh, I discovered D&D when I went to college, and I had been a wargamer in high school and stuff, which I got introduced to by my brother a long time ago. And so I joined up with there was a college gaming group there, mostly playing, again, war games and tabletop games, that sort of stuff. And I think it was about 75 that somebody in the group was starting this strange new game that nobody really knew much about. And I kind of heard from a few people, yeah, he's running this game and it's really fun. It's really interesting. And you should check it out. And so I weaseled an invitation into the game. And got introduced to D&D, and it was like, oh my God, this is pretty amazing. Because I also happened to be a theater minor at the time, so it was like, oh look, acting. Not that I was really an actor, but
Well, did you also feel like they weren't very good actors as well?
oh, none of us were. I mean, he was he was going to law school or planning, or what was going to go to law school. One of the other guys later on was a screenwriter, that sort of stuff. Various other things. My interest in theater was more for set design and that sort of stuff. I was an English major, so I knew that was unemployable. So I picked an equally unemployable, minor to go into.
That's not true, because we know you became a teacher, and we'll talk about that. So you just weren't paid very much. Do you stay in touch with any of those guys? So that original gaming group, dude.
I hear a little bit, mostly through Facebook, from one of them, and other things have happened. I think one there have been a few deaths and that sort of thing. So you don't, mostly though, it's just kind of, Facebook contact at most. We all went our many different ways after college.
Okay. Now, I thought what was interesting is that, unlike, it seems like, the vast majority of people who play their first D&D game, you were not an elf magic user.
Oh, no.
And what did you play?
I went for the dwarf right away, just because, I'm not even quite sure why, but it just seemed like a good one to do.
It was all that was left.
And played a dwarf, and he promptly died after like an adventure or two, because you don't know what you're doing, you get yourself killed. So I made up another dwarf, and I think that one also died, and I think it was about the third or so character finally that actually stuck around for a while. And this was all original box D&D, which could be very unforgiving. and we were all kind of learning the idea that, you probably really want to fudge this a bunch so that people will keep coming back to your game and that sort of thing.
That's right. It is strange, though, how many people in their first game, their character dies at very first session, and yet they're hooked. So unlike most things where, if if things don't go well the first time you do it, you're a bit discouraged. It seems like with D&D, death did not dissuade any of us. If for some strange reason it seemed to draw us in.
Well, it was that idea of like, wow, hey, this is like cool, dangerous. I lost, essentially. You came from tabletop games. It was like, oh, I lost is the mentality, not so much, oh, my character died. And also, the game was like, I have no idea what's really going on. Hey, if I do this again, maybe I'll do better. Because you could always excuse the first couple of deaths to like, oh, really? That's what happens?
You're not supposed to pet a giant spider?
and then after a while, when you started dying, it was, you could start blaming. Then it was be more where you'd be like, wow, I'm not sure I like this, because you'd start blaming, oh, I should have known better, and then you get discouraged, or oh, the DM had it out, was clearly had it out for us, that sort of thing.
And I'd like to ask you about, because I read online something you'd written about that game that you played in that group that you played in college, and I thought it was interesting, because you said that there was a lot of memorable moments, like the time one of the group created a fighter with 17 strength and 3 dexterity, yay random rolls. He wore pop bottle thick glasses and decided the character had vision as good as he did without the glasses. It made for great role playing and much accidental death. So can you just tell us a little bit, because that non-power gaming aspect can be a lot of fun at times. A lot of people, they get a 3 as a character attribute. They're very unhappy. You seem to see, and I know it wasn't your character, but you seem to see that differently.
Well, I mean, he embraced it. Was a big part of it, is that he could have easily said, oh, like, can I re-roll this? Everybody said, sure, that's pretty much not going to fly. But he said, no, wait, I can make this work, right? And as he demonstrated, he'll have bite as me, and he took off his glasses, and you realize, wow, he really, really had really bad vision. And so, but he also then, because of that, he knew how to play that, with the character in ways that weren't completely like, oh yeah, I just get killed the first opportunity. But it would be like things, we'd get into a fight and he's like, wait, I got to find a tree. I got to find a tree. And it's like, what? I'm going to put my back to a tree and just swing my sword randomly in front of me.
And that is sort of the memorable moments, right? I mean, that's what you remember in games.
So he was a terrible fighter, but it made for a lot of humor at the table, so we all enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think that's a great tagline too. For D&D, I'm surprised you guys didn't come up. Don't let death dissuade you. That should be,
That's right. That's right.
That's a real winning marketing line.
Well, that's probably why I'm in IT and not in marketing. So that's there you go.
I noticed that online. I saw that where you said that wargaming group had a fanzine. So I gotta ask, might there be a Zeb Cook fanzine article out there somewhere?
Oh yes, there is. In fact, John, the guy who wrote Playing at the World, has actually dug up copies. He copies of it. He finds everything. I don't even have copies of it. I was actually the editor of the fanzine for like a year, because it was our little club publication kind of a thing.
Okay, I'm disappointed. I don't have copies of those to quiz you.
Something to work on.
That's right. I'm failing. So all right. So I know you played through college, and now you get married, right? I mean, because I know that when you take your job, your wife is very supportive of you moving into gaming. So did you just out of curiosity, did you get married in college? And because you'd mentioned somewhere that your wife was a gamer, which got me curious.
Well, my wife wasn't a gamer when we first met, and that sort of stuff, and really kind of was a gamer when I was in college, and she would come visit, and I would say, hey, I'm going to go play this game thing. You might want to come along, because, what else are you going to do but, sit around and by yourself. And so kind of introduced her to it there. She enjoyed it quite a bit. And then after college, when we got married, we wound up living pretty much in the middle of nowhere. And so the only thing to do was to I ran a solo game for her, essentially.
I was gonna ask. So it sounds like there wasn't a high school D&D club that you organized at your school when you started teaching.
No, I didn't think that probably was a little too weird for the high school at the time. Mind you, the high school was also incredibly tiny.
Yes, I think right. So you take a job teaching English, right, in Milligan, Nebraska, and I think you said right around 300 people are in that town.
Yeah.
My father-in-law's from
3 bars.
Yeah.
We lived. We actually rented a place over one of the bars, and that bar was run by the former English teacher at the school, which was helpful in some ways. I mean, the town was full of very good people and stuff, but it was a farming community in Nebraska, well away from a lot of any kind of major towns and stuff. So for me, this wasn't quite so distressing, because I grew up on a farm and outside of a town of 300 people, and through most of my up until junior high or something like that. So I was kind of used to. I was at least kind of knew this idea. My wife was a little bit more like, oh my God.
Yeah, she seems to have made a lot of sacrifices.
A few, yeah.
So, but was it distressing to you to go from being able to play? I assume you weren't also finding a lot of wargaming players either. Was it distressing to move from a college scene where you had a lot of players to a place like Milligan, where all of a sudden it's a D&D game where the only player is your wife?
Yeah, it was a challenge. I mean, we could drive, usually like once a month would drive into, it was like 60 or 80 miles away, I think, to Lincoln, and there was a major hobby shop. There was a big hobby shop there. and they had gaming and stuff, and so go do that. But this was kind of an expedition, and as a teacher, you never had any money for any of this sort of stuff anyway.
Right. Can you, I want to go back a little bit in time. Can you tell us about Gen Con 9? So I know you go to Gen Con, right? And can you tell us a little bit about what that experience was like?
So Gen Con 9, which one was that?
So that would be in August 1976. This is the one where apparently, so you write in
Horticultural Hall, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, so I went to a couple of Gen Cons in that were still when it was still in Lake Geneva. One was at the first one I went to was at the Horticultural Hall. That might have been 9, because the other one we went to was at the Playboy Club out there, and I think that was later. Yeah, I mean, it's the Horticultural Hall is just this fairly small building. And it's kind of an interesting building because it's got kind of a big central space and then these kind of side wings are on it, but it's all one gigantic room essentially. So D&D was still pretty much, in its infancy at this point. I think that was the year that Judges Guild first released something. They had the city state. They had the maps for the city state, and they didn't have. I don't think they had the whole rest of the package, but they had the maps, and the maps were like, oh my God, look at these! These are amazing, because they were really kind of this first like, hey, let's do a really kind of a cool cartographic effort that was on a big scale, and so you had to have those, and then you'd get this book that the key for it that was just kind of like it's like, oh look, tavern, 3 guys, that's it, that's all it's The map was huge and elaborate, so it was like a great inspiration and material for doing stuff.
The map is, I was very disappointed. I love the Art and Arcana book, right, which is on behind James's shoulder there. I was disappointed that the map of the city-state didn't make it in there, because it is amazing. Mine is laminated. Just out of curiosity, my understanding is that Bob Bledsaw and Bill Owens were selling that out of the trunk of their car. So now
they had a table. I remember they had a table. Yeah.
Okay. So I had this image of like
they're all card tables that were set up, kind of thing, throughout the place, and so mostly you played games. You played a lot of not D&D games, but you played all these various other games, Kingmaker and. All the other kind of things that were very popular at the time.
Plague in Calais. Plague in Calais.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Kingmaker. I'm a big Kingmaker fan. So
later on at the hobby shop when I was working at TSR, we would play Kingmaker games occasionally, and we had one guy who kind of ran our facilities and the shipping and a bunch of other stuff. He was a great guy, but he built a Kingmaker board that was all out of wood and painted and all this sort of stuff, really elaborate, and had painted figures for all this stuff. And they would run Kingmaker. He would play Kingmaker games, but figured out the way to make it really, really, really tense, which was everybody threw like $5 or $10 in the pot at the start of the game, and at the end of the game, whoever was king got to give out the money.
Interesting. That's cool.
So towards the end of the game, there was often a lot of like, hey, if you make me king, I'll split this pot with you.
I like it because Kingmaker's pretty tense.
It made it much more cutthroat game.
and who doesn't enjoy cutthroat when you're playing a game with friends, right? It's like diplomacy. I played diplomacy once. I had invaded my friend's territory. I felt very dirty about it all, and I don't know. I didn't get into diplomacy for that reason. But could you tell? So we know. So you graduate, you take a job teaching English, and you only do that for a couple yeers because I assume you have a subscription to Dragon Magazine.
And I kept up on, saw the, D&D stuff. We were pretty, had my collection of minis, all this sort of stuff. And it's sometime in I guess it must have been 78, they ran an ad looking for basically designers. And it was just this little tiny little ad that was in Dragon. And teaching was not really, I was not. My temperament is not well suited to it, I guess.
Why not? Now I gotta ask.
Oh, it's just I get very impatient about things, and I put my foot through a door one time, and yeah, I had to go down and explain that to the superintendent.
It
Yeah,
sounds like it was a good thing you got hired at TSR.
a hole in the door.
You were gonna end up opening a bar.
I think that's the career path, right? You go from English teacher,
Yes.
defacing items at the school, and then perhaps being a bartender is more your style. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, right. So, so they ran an ad and kind of decided, my wife was supportive again, and basically submitted resume or whatever, passed for a resume kind of at that point. Got back from them a list of a whole bunch of questions to answer, and then and also they wanted a writing sample of an adventure, a short adventure writing sample, and the questions were everything from like, okay, how familiar are that we're clearly about how familiar were you with D&D to obscure questions of history of things that Gary really, what is a Bohemian ear spoon kind of a thing, this sort of stuff, right? And clearly, it was like, if you've been reading Dragon magazine, you could kind of find the answers to a bunch of these things and that sort of stuff. And so, answered all these questions and sent off the writing sample, and that was like, oh, this is going to be, well, we'll see, and was pretty amazed when they came back and said yes, that they'd like to hire me, or they would like to have me come out for an interview. That was, they weren't going to hire me yet. They wanted to actually meet me though, and so that was like, okay, yeah. Working out how to get there was the challenge, because they were very much a very small kind of operation and everything, and they were like, well, buy a plane ticket and come here, and we'll reimburse we'll get you reimbursed and all that sort of stuff. And I had to explain I was a teacher, I couldn't afford to buy a plane ticket, and could they perhaps do that up front? And so that.
And who are you? So is this via telephone? Like, who are you negotiating with at this point?
I believe I was that some of this was handled by a woman named Rose Estes, who worked there. I think that was who I was working with, or might have been Mary, Gary's wife, for some of this. It's a little hard. Long time ago, I don't remember exactly. But I worked all this stuff out and managed to get up there, and basically did this interview, which was, I get to Lake Geneva, and I'm kind of waiting on a street corner to be picked up by Gary's wife, because Gary does not drive, and so she picked me up and took me out to their place, where I basically was interviewed by Gary and spent a good chunk of the time talking to him. And I think actually, again, this is giving you an idea of just how small the company was and informal was, that they didn't have me booked into a hotel or any motel or anything. Instead, I wound up sleeping on Gary's couch out on his screen porch or something like this.
And that,
I exaggerate that a little bit, but it was pretty much was just about like that.
Well, wait, but you did sleep on the porch, I believe, right? So that's right.
Yeah, I definitely spent the night on a couch at his, or one of the something like that at his place.
Because if it is the porch, that porch is famous, right? I mean, he played D&D games out there on that porch. Had you met Gary before? So you'd been to Gen Con, and while it was still a pretty small affair. So do you remember?
I've seen him, but I was like, oh, that's Gary Gygax. I didn't talk to him or anything. I'm not the super outgoing kind of person in some ways. And so, yeah, but that was really the first time I'd actually, seriously talk to him or anything like that.
Okay. What was your impression of Gary when you first met him?
Oh, he was very affable. He's very, he's a charming person. He was a charming person. He was very affable. He likes talking with people. He liked interacting with and this sort of stuff. So, it was perfectly pleasant. And he seemed to like me, so that helped.
And so were you offered a job there on the spot when you met with Gary?
I'm not sure if it was on the spot, but it was shortly after that. Yeah, it wasn't long after that. The biggest problem is that the job involved a pay cut from being a teacher in Nebraska, which was not exactly what we call making a lot of money at that time. So I actually had to we had to make some serious, plans and stuff about how we could possibly even do that. But again, we decided to take that chance.
Yeah, Jim Ward turned it down for that reason, right? I mean, originally,
I can perfectly understand that because the pay was very close to kind of poverty levels at that point in time.
Nebraska teacher, Sri Lankan dung herder, TSR employee, basically.
Yeah, somewhere it wasn't good. Fortunately, it was a risk that paid off literally because within a short period of time, they basically were able to boost all of our wages, fairly significantly. Mind you, significantly even then was still, oh, look, we're above the poverty level now.
So so is this when you really started being called Zeb? I know that you've been called that in high school, right, by your students, but can you also explain why the people at TSR wanted to call you Zeb as opposed
I don't know if they wanted to call me Zeb, but
well, they chose to instead of David.
So when I got hired, there was already David Sutherland, the art director, who went by David or Dave, and then there was another Dave down in shipping, who went by the name Diesel, because that way they could tell them apart. You knew who was calling, and so it was like, well, you'll probably need a nickname, and we're gonna call we'll get confused if we try to call you Dave, and Dave Sutherland's like in 2 offices down that way. And so it's that principle of if you're going to wind up with a nickname, it's a whole lot better if you have some voice in what that nickname is, or you wind up with something like Fishhead.
And where did Zeb come from?
So Zeb came from basically when I was teaching my high school students. Some of them decided I looked like a character in some TV Western at the time that was named Zeb, and they would teasingly call me that or brought it up, right? And students can call you a lot worse. So I just was amused, but wasn't a big deal, but it was kind of an interesting nickname that when I got over to TSR, that it was easy to remember and memorable, and so we'll use that, and then it's pretty much stuck ever since.
Does your wife call you Zeb?
When she is angry with me.
Okay.
Well, that's
when she kind of wants to make a point that either I've done something wrong or I'm just being a general ass.
That's awesome.
Can you tell us a little bit about the building, right? And obviously a lot of this information that I'm asking you about, you've told before, and I appreciate you, being kind enough to say it again. But, I love the stories that you tell about the building, right? Because it's the former Hotel Claire.
Yeah. So the TSR's original offices were this little 2-story frame house that was elsewhere in Lake Geneva. But by the time I got there, that was pretty much all given over to Dragon Magazine. with about the 3 or 4 people that worked on Dragon. So they had that space because the company expanded and it needed more space. And they had the Dungeon Hobby Shop downtown, which was like right on downtown Main Street, main intersection, crossroad corner in downtown Lake Geneva. It was a great location for the hobby shop. And above it were 2 stories of this building. It was this old building, and the old building was originally had been a hotel way back, in the day when Lake Geneva was, in the 20s and 30s, I guess, or something like that. And so all the rest of the offices took over the 2nd and 3rd floor. The 2nd floor was mostly that's where like management and the art department and eventually RPGA and some other stuff was all on that floor. And the 3rd floor was pretty much mostly design and editorial. And then Tom Wam, who had an office up there for no definite reason except give Tom Wam an office, and every once in a while, something will come out of it that maybe we'll publish in Dragon somehow. But he was never actually officially an employee, but he had this really nice office and stuff. But the building was kind of a dump in general. And the floors on the 3rd floor, the floors kind of went this way, and every 5 feet they were angled in slightly a different direction. Doors would kind of swing open mysteriously on their own because they were also out of plumb, and this sort of thing. And it hadn't been painted in 20, 30 years or whatever. So it had this kind of a pale brown color. I don't even know what you call it. Kind of like the wall behind you right there.
I think it's called mold. I think it's called mold or asbestos. That's it.
But it was, and we actually at connected made some of the offices were fairly small, and so to make it a little easier, like Dave Sutherland literally knocked a hole through one into the other, and just it was just like kind of cut it up kind of neat, but it was never framed out. There was never anything done there nice for it. But yeah, it was a great building falling apart. There are horrible stories about there was a hole in one on the 3rd floor. There was a hole in one office floor that you could look down into the offices of the 2nd floor, and it just is always that way. At one point when Jeff Grubb, I think it was Jeff, who's actually put his foot, managed to have it, kind of foot went through that hole into the 2nd floor. And then above the 3rd floor, there was another set of stairs that went up that was always locked, because above there had been an old ballroom on like the 4th floor of this hotel, and nothing was up there. It was locked, and nobody ever went up there. Except that one Friday afternoon, Errol Otis, who was one of our artists at the time, and we were, it was late Friday afternoon. Most everybody, had gone home. We were all just kind of wrapping up, and he found out that that for some reason somebody had gone up into the 4th floor and had left that unlocked. So he went up to go check it out because, hey, what's up here, And he would get up there, and he was like roaming around on this thing. And apparently that required kind of like, there was open rafters that you kind of just kind of jumped through and went across. And I'm down the hall talking to somebody. I think it was like, Jeff or somebody like this, and there is this loud crash. Oh. And it's like, oh my God, what the hell is that? And kind of head back up. And then I get up to my office, which I shared with another guy. And there, in the middle of the office, hanging through the ceiling, is the bottom half of Errol Otis.
His legs are like
through whatever the plasterboard or whatever, because apparently he had misstepped and stepped on part of the unsupported thing, went right through the ceiling. And so, got him out of there, and, kind of like, then we had to, then it had to be explained to somebody because nobody was there, right? We had to kind of explain to somebody that I think it was that he fell through the ceiling.
So you told the truth.
What?
You told the truth.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there was a great big hole. It was kind of hard to ignore.
Well, you make something up.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we got told never to do that again, and the door always stayed locked after that. And ever since, that office just had like a piece of plywood kind of laid over the hole up above, and never really, kind of not a much done with it after that. Eventually, I'm told that much later that building was almost condemned after we had moved out to our larger facility.
Almost condemned,
but
it wasn't. It almost. It was.
Yeah.
That's
well,
I think
the
hotel.
It could have been condemned, except that somebody invested money in fixing it up.
Oh, jeez.
So, and then when you got there, right? So you get there in '79, right? I think July '79. The Dungeon Master's Guide is
June '79.
I'm sorry, June '79. The Dungeon Master's Guide is coming out, right? Was that the first thing that you started working on?
Well, by that point, it was mostly the only. By the time I got there, it came out in. They released it at August Gen Con, so there really wasn't anything significant left to do on that at that point. And mostly it was like reading galley proofs, and they had people to do all that. So I was doing other things. Yeah.
Okay. So what? And I know that you're gonna start writing about. You're hired as a designer, and I believe I read somewhere that the module, the short adventure that you had written to submit with your application formed the basis for one of your later modules. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. The adventure that I did, a little bit of it, and certainly some of the, I think like the monsters and kind of the spirit of it more than anything else, eventually became the Dwellers of the Forbidden City. Because I had done this very pulpy, lost temple in the jungle kind of a thing, and so that when we went to do it as a module, it needed to be expanded out quite a bit because it was like 5 pages long or something like that.
Okay, that sounds like a good. Listen, I like something I can run in a couple hours. But so you did. Can you tell us a little bit about the A series? So of course you write. Oh, and there it is, and we will get to that one.
Frog monsters.
Right, but before that is published A1, right?
Right.
So it's the under. So can you tell us a little bit about the A series?
That year or the year after. I think it must have been, someone wrong that every year Gen Con had their big D&D tournament, and there was prior, all the previous years it had been written by a couple of different outside groups, and one of the years that I was like, I'm not sure which one of those, there was basically it didn't go as well as it could have, and so I think Lawrence Schick and Alan Hammock and group and Harold Johnson and I basically said, we should just do this. It's our official kind of flagship tournament thing. Instead of like letting outside groups write the thing and all this stuff, maybe we should just do this. And then we'll do it, and then we'll sell the modules, and then we'll publish the modules and sell them, after the tournament. And this sounded like a great idea, and boy, was it! It turned into kind of a logistics nightmare because the idea is that there would be 4 modules. There were 2 preliminary rounds, or 4 preliminary rounds of which we would do 2 modules, each having 2 halves, of the preliminary. Yeah. And then there would be a semifinal round, and then finally a final round. And so on Thursday, there would be 2 preliminaries, which meant that on Friday, we could sell the module, or, on Thursday, there would be like all the preliminaries, but on Friday or Saturday, we could then sell modules of all the preliminaries without giving anything away. And people could I played in this and I can buy this sort of thing. And then when the semifinal, we would do the next one, the semifinal, and final, we'd do the same kind of thing. Well, that was a coordination nightmare for just trying to sell things first off. And it also meant that we had to write essentially two modules, each with two halves that were all kind of identically balanced. That were basic, and so I did the first module, which was Slave Pits of the Undercity, and basically we had to figure out a formula so that when you put together the encounters for it, everybody was essentially kind of working from the same script of like, this is what we will have. And so we sat down and we said, okay, this is how many encounters we think that they can get done in the play session time. And I think it was like 8 or something like that. And then we literally broke them down into, okay, this is basic encounter. This is a basic encounter with a trap. This is new monster, new monster introduction thing. This is, basic encounter with, but with a boss monster. And, we worked out all this kind of like, these are the beats that you have, and then go write the modules and then try to make them all into a continuous connected story. So
tournament adventures in the future, was there lessons learned?
I think one of the big lessons learned is we didn't really try to do that big a crazy coordinated release and thing after that, but we did do tournament modules. We tended to make them more, one person doing all the work or that sort of stuff. But the whole doing the tournament thing didn't last a long time. Gen Con got really big, and it was hard to, we had way other, more complicated things to deal with.
Well, we are the beneficiaries of your logistical nightmare, because the A series, of course, is beloved by people. James, right? James, not too long ago, you ran the entire A series.
That's correct. From A1 to A. Well, they skipped A4 only because I think, and I know you've heard this many times, players hate A4. They think.
Oh my God, I love A4. A4 is the best part of the whole thing.
But they hate it.
All through this thing, you've been doing like, yeah, we're winning. Oh, we got captured, and then it's like, and now we're going to put you in you mighty, I think you're 6th level or something. I can't remember at that point. Yeah,
4 to 7.
Yeah, we're going to put you in unholy fear of kobolds with sticks.
I have a blackjack. I'm powerful. Look at me. Yeah, it's
not so tough now, are you?
It really is the one of the things we were just talking before you came on. Unfortunately, the axioms of many of the players that they no matter what the difficulty, they always attack. They never retreat. And they'd rather be killed than captured is kind of the thing that, in order of player, level drained is worse, then captured is worse, level drained, killed, they'd rather have all that first. And, that may be generational, but invariably that seems to be the case. But but we did do A1 through 3. And in fact, we ran it, first time I ever ran A1, which was just a couple of years ago. They actually were defeated in the first thing, and they got captured, which made A2 kind of superfluous. So we went to A3 because they basically skipped to A3, and then it's like, well, I can either have them go through A4. So I think in a tournament it works very well. And I know later they did the against the slavers, and that kind of tied those pieces together in that. So, but people are commenting, the love for that A series. So maybe a couple of quick questions from online while we're doing this. I know we may be skipping ahead a little bit, but as far as the Oriental Adventures, now we're kind of in the mid '80s. Were you serious about removing the monk class from the AD&D game? Was that?
So, yeah, this one always gets people. I never quite understand why people get so upset about it. But so when we went to do AD&D and second edition and stuff, but basically, for Oriental Adventures, we needed a monk.
Yeah, we lost him.
Uh-oh.
Did a bunch of stuff there. But the thing is, looking later further on to second edition, which is where we really did remove like a bunch of these things, that and I guess the assassin especially, the mechanics never worked well with the rest of how the game system worked, because they were all tended to be like, oh, and then roll percent of dice, and oh, look, the guy's dead. And, the whole idea of just, one-shot kill kind of things was A, kind of very much not in the spirit. And B, especially with something like the assassin, the idea that, oh, you're just rolling a table for what is essentially, an assassin is all about kind of role-playing and setting up that opportunity. And, well, how are you going to assassinate him? And, the risk and all this sort of stuff. And it was just... Sorry, my wife just walked in.
That's okay. Hi.
And it was all about the risk and stuff. So it didn't make sense when you could easily just say, oh, I'm a magic user. I'm going to assassinate somebody. And then you figure out, well, these are my skills. This is how I'll do it. And so it was more a mindset than an actual, like, I'm a character class. Anybody can go assassinate somebody. It's just, can you get away with it? So there was that. With the monk, it was because the rule books were basically kind of a core Western European fantasy thing. And then the monk here kind of stuck out like a real sore thumb. And it was better, seemed to be like, well, we got this monk character in Oriental Adventures. We have all this very, stuff to support it much better there. So that it was better just kind of left there. And that with the idea that, at some point we'll do a new Oriental Adventures and we can bring the monk in, because, we didn't know where things were going to go, but that was kind of an expectation. So, I caught a lot of flack for this stuff, but I do think I was trying to do something that was healthy for the group overall, especially the assassin. So much made for argument and frustration from people. It's like, what? You get to roll one die and kill a guy instantly. What kind of fun is that? I mean, I have to risk everything, and so. And then, assassins always wanted to wind up going off and assassinating half their party a lot of the time.
So it sounds like, because Jim Ward had asked you to write an article, right, to kind of to be somewhat provocative, right? Yeah. And you go through. I read the article last night, and you list, and I don't disagree with a lot of things you say, but you basically sort of ask which character classes should be killed off in second edition, and you go through the ones that, and I wanted to ask you is when you wrote that, were you expressing how you felt, or was part of you just trying to provoke?
It was a mix of both. I mean, this was Jim's really brilliant marketing thing, which was like, all right, let's, we need to get, let's get some interest going. So yeah, let's write something really provocative. Let's
it was in
let's
118.
Something that will get them all kind of like, oh my God, paying attention, riled up a little bit. And so that was the Who Dies article kind of thing.
Right, because you tell it, and we agree with you, James and I. We agree on some of these. Like you didn't like the Barbarian because James has said this. There's the article, that's right? Yeah, the game was Who Dies. Is it just with just his name? So Jim Ward nowhere to be seen.
No,
we should ask Jim about that.
Nowhere to be seen.
So you do it, Zeb. James has argued this, right? James, you've argued a barbarian. You can play a barbarian as a fighter. You don't need a barbarian as a separate class, right?
Yes.
That's pretty much. There's a lot of them. That's, again, I always feel like things like that, and that's later on with a bunch of the kits, and barbarian was an example of what happens in every edition, which is you see power inflation. As more supplements and stuff come out, it's like, oh, we need to give them something even better. And then the next thing you've got, kind of like elements of the game that are kind of like held together by, gum and sticky tape that are straining at the seams because you've got this power inflation thing going on, and then next thing you need a new edition to kind of reset things and start over.
Yeah. Now I think that so the barbarian was newer and more controversial. I think when you wrote that article, I got the sense that you recognized that you were going to be potentially killing off character classes which were more established, and therefore you had people who loved them. So like you talked about the druid, right? And you recognize, I think in your article, you acknowledge that there's going to be people out there who love druids. I mean, we have people like that they appear on the show. The illusionist. I love the illusionist. So was that a concern that, about going after some of those other classes that were going to have such followers?
Oh yeah. I mean, believe me, when we started going into that and actually like, okay, who would, what classes will really, will we actually not include? There was a lot of debate and a lot of, I didn't really want to kill the druid or the illusionist or anything like that, but part of the article was to try and, spread a little like, hey, look, think about all these things. But part of what happened is I had to spend a bunch of time figuring out how to get them more integrated kind of into the system, so the druid becomes, essentially a cleric with, spheres of influence kind of thing going on, and the illusionist, led to the fact that looked at the illusionist and said, hey, I really like I love illusionists personally, the issue was, well, how can I take the idea of the illusionist and actually kind of systematize it? And that led to the whole schools of magic thing. And now you could have like wizards who specialized in other areas too. So sometimes it actually allowed us to open up, possibilities, as opposed to just say, nope, this is all going away. With the monk and the assassin, that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, he even says it's a goner. He's the assassin's a goner.
So did the letters? When you even are talking about the paladin and the ranger, right? Yeah. Which are, and I think you stuck up for, you liked the paladin. Yeah,
I mean, it was to get people to think about these things, get them also to respond with, hey, I really do want, how much angry mail would we get about, you're threatening to kill my favorite character, that sort of thing, so that we could come back and be able to say, oh, look, we listened to you. And we're not going to kill that guy.
And so, did that work? So that was my next question.
I don't know. I think there are some people who still haven't forgiven me to this day. So,
but did the reader mail actually influence? So was this just sort of like, hey, you had to say we've listened to you, now we're going to do whatever we're going to do, or did it actually have did any of the reader mail actually?
Oh yeah, it
have an impact.
It did have an impact because there were classes that were that were sitting on the fence. And I think the Bard was really one of those, and that sort of thing.
You could have killed it. I would have been totally happy. That should have died.
James likes the revised Bard in Dragon Magazine, right? The Bard took so long to get anywhere, right? I mean, you'd have to be 20th level or something.
But in later editions, it's an anathema. Everything's a bard now, so that's my own. It's my own.
No one should be playing an instrument while I'm in melee. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's that.
Seriously?
But definitely, it did influence. It made clear that like any suggestion of removing such and such a class was just like, nope, we're going to keep it, and that then leads to the okay, well, how do I justify it? Kind of an effort, and stuff. So yeah, it had some influence. I mean, we had a pretty good idea of how the response would go, but it was also good to see it and know for sure.
What was the most? Was there one that was the most support, like that people supported the most? That like it kind of reminds me like when people wrote in to continue Star Trek or something like that. Was there one class that you're like, oh my gosh, okay, we got to keep this?
I honestly don't remember, to that level of detail. So.
Yeah. The only thing about the assassin, and I didn't know this until we covered the assassin on the show, is the nice thing about the assassin too is the assassin had disguise ability and spying. Not that you need to do spying a lot as a party, but so that was news to me, that it wasn't just simply killing people, right? I mean, you want to have a spy, you send in an assassin. So, okay, could you talk?
Part of what we tried to do is kind of split up some of those things and give them, either give them as things that, like the thief could learn or stuff like that. We tried to make it so that if you were clever, you could build, a character that could do those things, short of the, yes, I roll percentile dice and kill you dead.
Well, and we talked about that, right, James? When we did the Assassins episode, that was one of the things that came up was, do you just simply, I mean, how boring is that? That's a war game. Do you really just roll on this table? And James, I think the way you've played it is you would say you'd have to do exactly what Zeb is saying, right? Is you'd have to describe exactly what you'd have to go in and do it. And then when it comes time for the kill shot, you get to roll, right?
Yeah,
James, is that how
it was, and we generally avoided assassins, and we've talked to a lot of people. Obviously, there was a need for these. People hiring assassins to kill other player characters off. We never played that way, but if we did, or if we had one, there would be if you were going to hire an assassin, you'd have to work with the assassin and figure it out, because that just felt non-sportsmanlike to have this one role. And then but later when I became a DM and people would want to be an assassin, they try to disguise themselves, and the same thing. If I could surprise, I can backstab or this or that. It's problematic. It really should have been an NPC class, and you can, or nothing at all. You could, like Zeb was saying, it could be anyone could assassinate. It's just the planning of it. Well, there's nothing magical about shanking someone, kind of thing.
Well, depends who you are.
Yeah.
And I know for almost an absolute certainty that if I had played an assassin and Gary had been running the game and I said, "Oh, I'm going to assassinate this guy," his first question would have been, "Well, how are you going to do it?" Right? And he would have made me go through figured out all those steps. But the problem is that just didn't translate over to a lot of regular players. They just looked at it and said, like, "Oh, there's percentile. Okay, that's all I need to do."
Right.
So could you tell us a little bit? So as I mentioned at the outset when I introduced you, you wrote many adventures, of course. Two of them were honored by being put on Dungeon Magazine's list of the top 30 modules. Number 13, Dwellers of the Forbidden City, and number 16, Isle of Dread. So could you talk a little bit about your making of those adventures?
Right. Oh, well, so Dwellers of the Forbidden City, we'll start with that because we kind of touched on it already. Like I said, when I originally submitted, I had created this, very Conan-esque kind of lost temple in the jungle thing, which had the little Tassloy guys in it and all this sort of stuff. And then, so it was like, okay, well, you need to write an adventure, so let's take that thing and expand it out. Well, it needed a whole lot more material to it, obviously. And one of the things that, most of the modules, a lot of the modules up to that point had been, oh, look, here's another dungeon. Here's another, another hole in the ground. Some of them were, more worked out than others. And this one, I really kind of wanted to make more about a more open-ended place. And so, expanded the Lost Temple to become this whole little lost city out in the jungle. But then, we only had like 16 or 32 pages for this thing, so you can't detail out an entire city in that amount of space and fill it out with like lots of individual stories and adventures. And B, I'm also kind of lazy and didn't really want to do all that work.
Yeah, it's so impressive. I mean, there's so much material here. It's jam-packed.
And so it became kind of focused. There's the temple and the kind of traditional go in here and do this part. And also, but then there's a lot of it that is just kind of like guidelines for here's other things that you can have happening in this city while you're kind of exploring. And wanted to go with a lot of the pulp themes, so there are different factions in the city that you can kind of play off on each other. It got to introduce the Tassloy, the Bullywugs, I think it was the Mongrel Men, and that's where the Yuan-Ti first make their appearance. And you're going to do a jungle city, you got to have snake men. It seemed like a no-brainer. So that was just me kind of expressing a love of kind of old pulp novels and short stories and stuff like that I pretty much read a lot of those before I ever went to when I was growing up, and so
Yeah, I
to
think
capture all of that.
Yeah, I think I saw somewhere else online that you'd been asked if I think it was Red Nails had
Oh yeah, Red
been
Nails.
an influence
Definitely.
for that.
You know, I'm going to go rip off something. I'm going to go try and get one that's good at. You know.
And now and Isle of Dread, of course, was a joint effort, right, with you and Tom Moldvay.
Yeah. So it was so for Isle of Dread, we got to the point where we needed, we were doing the basic expert, and the basic set had, a module in it, and so they were saying, okay, now we got to, we're doing the expert set, and we were writing these both at the same time. He was doing basic, and I was doing expert, and it was like, all right, this is going to need to have some kind of adventure in it. And I'm going like, great, but I don't have time to write a whole adventure and write the rules. So Tom, because he didn't have to write an adventure because they had one, had some, we basically worked out that we would co-write this, and then the matter is, how do you figure out how to do that where we're not stepping on each other's toes really horribly or anything like that? So we looked at this and said, we'll do this island thing. It'll be a nice self-contained space, but it'll give us the idea of the wilderness adventure that we want to show off and show people how to do. And so Tom basically kind of we divided the island into two parts. There's the outer part, and then there's the inner part, which has the more traditional go crawl through the dungeon part. And so he basically, and Tom had a love of dinosaurs and that sort of stuff. So he said, okay, he'll do the outer part, and I would do the inner part. And so a lot of what he did, he made we wanted to teach people how to do wilderness adventures. We wanted to show them, how to construct encounter tables and all this sort of stuff. And also kind of that whole, here you're on an area, it's a lot of free form kind of play you can do. So set up a lot of locations and a lot of encounters, and basically built all out. He and I both did monsters for it, that new monsters, because you always had to have new monsters in these things too. And then I went and did the kind of and then here's actually a plot, a story plot going on in the center part of the island in the volcano area, with the Kopru and the ancient temple. I mean, I have this thing about ancient temples and pulpy things. What can I say? Yeah. And that work divided up really well, because each of us, as long as we were kind of coordinating kind of the basic stuff, we had pretty much, could work out whatever we wanted. And so we were doing very much the kind of, crash landed on the King Kong kind of island, and basically, again, hitting every kind of trope and cliche we could find.
But what's interesting about that is as a kid, and I wasn't much a reader. I read Lord of the Rings, but that was I started playing D&D before I read. Whereas I think a lot of people read and then they played. Of my generation, 9, 10 years old when we started playing, they weren't tropes because we didn't know the tropes, because it was, oh, this is really cool. We knew dinosaur, Lost Island. What was when they go down to the bottom of the center of the earth and there's the dinosaurs in there? That's what it kind of reminded me. Yeah, but we didn't know what it was. It was the TV show that was modeled based on the old things at the time. My question: so how did you land that you were going to work? I mean, I certainly count the basic and expert rules. When you look at all the retro clones that have come out, they're all based on this. This is the legacy of.
I still run games with those, because they're great for conventions. I don't have to. The rules are simple, and you can play fast, and people have a good time.
And I think a lot of people have landed, like again in our generation, where if they started before, they were very deep. We've kind of had this bifurcation. If you started before 1980, you had that DIY the old school game. It had a different vibe. I grew up, the Holy Trinity. We talked about the books, and everything had to be written down. But we've all kind of, as we get older, the idea of trying to figure out encumbrance and figuring out, how much tax you're going to pay and experience points becomes, it's just, or performance reviews.
You actually use those rules? rules.
Yeah. Well,
roll for disease.
Yeah,
it's been a month.
Yeah, if you're in a hot climate. So many people have landed on that the basic and expert rules, Moldvay Cook, as I'm sure you know, is kind of the sweet spot for a lot of folks. So, I guess my question is, oh yeah, absolutely. And, every time we're sitting here figuring out surprise by segment and initiative and simultaneous weapon speed, we go, yeah, I think basic and expert, that sounds really good. So how did you land that as an assignment? Was that a plump assignment, or was that oh God, I got to write a rule book?
No, it was a plump assignment. Believe me, we all, everybody always wanted to do kind of like the big projects if they could, or we were perfectly aware of that. It's part of it was just scheduling. We only had like I think 4, maybe 5 designers on staff at that point. Maybe it might have been only 4, and a lot of it was looking at like, well, who has time, what time's available. Part of it was also experience. That Tom and I were probably the 2 most experienced designers on the staff at the time, and so it's like, look, looks like you guys have time. We'll rearrange the schedule a little bit, and then you get put on the task. It's a lot of it was who did Gary feel, and who did Gary feel he could trust to do stuff like these things too. And it's kind of fortunate in that he trusted both Tom and I to do these things. And
it sounds like it was a good assignment for you, because I've read online that you like simple. You think simple is better for games like this. And so did you feel, and I wanted to ask you, I assume when when you were in Nebraska, you probably started playing first edition, because it's 77, Monster Manual comes out, 78, Player's Handbook. Yeah. Did you feel, was it your own personal belief, you maybe didn't say it around, the offices, that 1E was a bit too rules heavy?
Well, I think I don't know if I actually said it. I think everybody knew that there were a lot of rules in 1E that people didn't use, but they were there so that for people who wanted them, right? But there was always the idea that you use the rules that work, and you just don't pay attention to the others. I mean, we and in our general game sessions that we would play at TSR in that time period. Yeah, we didn't use, we didn't bother with encumbrance. We didn't generally worry about that. We didn't worry about, the weapon, was it the
weapon speed
segment, weapons, initiative segments or anything like that. It was just like, because, that was just going to take way too long to get through any kind of a fight. But we knew it was there because there were people who liked that kind of level of detail and wanted that level of detail. So. It wasn't that like, oh, we think that this is rules heavy. We just all viewed it as, oh, you use the rules that you like out of it. And so we were always a little amazed later on, or at least I was always a little amazed later on when people go like, no, it's got to have, you have to do all these things or it's not, you're not doing it right. And it's like, well, how does that work? If you're having, it was more about use the rules at work and have fun.
So who was the audience? So because you had a basic set, of course. You had Holmes Basic, which I assume was getting old by that point in time, is 77. So whose idea was it? Gary's idea that you needed a basic set, and who was the target audience?
Well, the target audience was, we were trying to appeal to basically get these into, this is something that we could sell in like the Walmart or that sort of stuff, and it would be for frankly a younger audience. Our audience had started way back when this was originally done. It was very much college age and kind of that sort of thing. But as it became more popular, that audience actually started becoming moving younger. As basically D&D started being, you could find it in places other than college bookstores, which was kind of where you initially could find it. The audience went younger, and so then it became like, well, we need to provide a somewhat friendlier, starting point for a lot of people, especially when we started discovering, kids that were, 14, 12, this sort of stuff, and even sometimes even younger were, either being given the books or were, picking them up, and they were having a hard, and it was a challenge for them, which doesn't mean that they couldn't do it, but it was a challenge. And so we wanted something that we could sell on a bigger. We were always chasing the mass market. We were going to break into the mass market, damn it, one way or another. Never did, but we tried.
Well, yeah. I mean, to me, the fact that the game, a complete game, is on 60 pages here, and then if you want to do more, is another 60 pages. You have everything you need to do that, and it's concise, is a testament to the work that you produced. And and it was interesting because I never really understood that it was two product lines. And it was only later it was like you had this kind of bifurcated audience almost. Did that come? Was that a planned thing, or did it just kind of occur and then
It was a strange schizophrenia so. Because the idea had always said, we should do I think the original idea was the basic set when it was even before we did it, was the basic set would be the lead in to, to then you would be led into expert, or not expert, but into advanced. But the rules were never set up that way.
Yeah.
It was always set up like, it's a separate creature. And then if I go to this other one, I have to change a bunch of the rules and it's not the same. And so we wanted, the idea was always like, wow, that would be really cool, but we just never seemed to quite get it, sorted out with a real consistent plan where we did like, here is an intro to AD&D, and then, we flow from there. And they just kind of became two separate, they just, I don't know, it was just bad planning on our part in some way.
Yeah, the Red Book makes perfect sense. Okay, I want to learn D&D, but then you read halfway through it. Oh, these are in the expert. Okay, well, I thought, isn't that advanced D&D? No, we have an expert. And then you're like, oh, well, that's great, because now I don't have to stop. Well, then why am I playing AD&D? We had them all, but it wasn't clear if you were supposed to switch over or not. And then obviously when Menser came out and they kept going that way, oh, well, you could basically stay on this second path.
I mean, by that point, we had established it as kind of a second line, and so it was never going to like be the thing that merged over into AD&D at that point
for a long time.
Yeah, because then you had Menser Basic. I mean, that's right. I mean, not that long after that, right? Menser Basic was like, hey, yeah. So you've got that would see. One of the first things I had to do, because I came out of a deep freeze, not having played role playing games for close to 30 years, I had to learn. OD&D brown box, OD&D white box, Holmes Basic, AD&D, then the basic expert, right? The Mulvey Cook, and then Menser Basic, right? And now we're just up to
83,
the mid 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
We didn't have always a real clear marketing plan.
Well, but isn't so many people? I mean, I can't remember who it was that we had on the show. We asked them what edition they play, and they said they just play. So in other words, a lot of it, right? I mean, James, like you said, it was a mashup for a lot of people, and that's fine, right? I mean, I don't know that you need a lot of rules, or just pick whichever ones.
I mean,
you
the
want,
combat
right?
rules in BX is what most people think combat should be, because it's simple, straightforward. It's you show people that, like, oh, I get it. As soon as you say, okay, now I'm going to show you what's in the DMG, and you start, their eyes roll in the back of their head. So we basically stole half of the core mechanics, and then we used the flavor in AD&D. It was all all the treasures and all the monsters and all the cool stuff, but it really influenced what we did, and so that whole process of it was and I wasn't a hobbyist. We went to the Barnes and Noble or the B. Daltons, so our world was very limited to whatever they provided, which was that one wire rack of books, and so it was like, oh, it's the next TSR thing. I picked it up. Thank you very much. So, but again, this, I know we're going to talk about second edition real quick, but of the two major works during your time, were you surprised that the BX his legacy has continued so far and has such reverence versus second edition, which is really the Herculean task of taking something that's
yeah, we never expected it to. I mean, we never anticipated that it would last this long. But I'm very happy for it. It's and I can see why, because it is the really useful. I just want to play a quick game and don't want to have to spend a lot of time getting all the characters worked out, all this sort of stuff. So it makes it much easier to do a pickup game with that. It makes it faster. And like I said, for me it's my preference for the game I run at conventions, because I can put something together faster, and I can explain it to people faster.
And what was your? Oh, yes.
No, just a character sheet. The old.
Yeah.
It's 2 pages. It's got big things. It doesn't have a last will and testament. That's the only part we would add to it, right, Dan? We would add the goldenrod last will and testament.
Yeah, you need the will.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't. This is not a legitimate contract between you and the DM without a will. But it's big boxes. There's 20 items on here, and you know what you're doing. You don't have 48 proficiencies and everything else. So kudos. Again, I think everyone has played this, and this is what they, that's you look at all these retro clones, a vast majority of them are based on BX, or BECME, just that whole spirit of that. Not, there are AD&D retros, but there's less of them than this. So I'm sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to ask about Zeb, what your philosophy was with 2E. So I know that because you've said you liked simple. What was your philosophy when you started drafting 2E? What were you seeking? Other than, of course, obviously, TSR wanted to sell product, but what was your philosophy?
So 2E basically, it was the first time we tried to deal with we've put out a whole bunch of expansions. Well, actually, not the first time, because that's AD&D was some of that to the original box sets. But we put out a bunch of expansions. There are rules conflicts. There are there's really useful material in expansions that doesn't get used because it's not part of a core set, this sort of thing. And so the original idea had been to kind of let's just get the conflict straightened out. Let's reorganize it, get it so that we've got a good clear set of core material, and that was the goal. Then we started working with it, and that goal expands to we need to fix this, or hey, we could do this over here, or that sort of stuff. And a lot of it was just trying to resolve basically people played D&D, AD&D, but most every place that played it had their own set of house rules. And some of those house rules were like, okay, yes, barbarians are allowed, or this is how we do this, and this sort of stuff. And some of that was stuff drawn from Dragon Magazine, from various expansions and supplements. We had Unearthed Arcana, Oriental Adventures, Wilderness Adventures, and all these box sets that come out all the way up to, or books that came out all the way up to, including Manual of the Planes. And they all would introduce some new stuff that was like, oh, that's kind of cool, we could use that. But it was all scattered all over the place. So a good deal of it was like bringing all that together. So that then became, oh look, in Oriental Adventures I introduced this idea of non-weapon proficiencies. Let's take that system, bring it in to second edition, because people are always complaining that we don't have a decent skill system, and they're always confused about how do you resolve a bunch of those things. Let's bring that in. Then we want the illusionist. Let's expand use that as an excuse to expand the whole roles of magic users. And so you do a lot of this, and then here's how people are actually playing, like the combat system. Let's get the combat system closer to what people are actually doing, as opposed to the, this other system, the system that's there. And we have good ideas. Steve Winter worked out the whole THACO idea, and so
so it is THACO, not THACO.
Yeah, we always called it THACO.
Okay, you heard it here first.
That's right.
Or, I don't know if you heard it here first. You probably didn't. We weren't first. We like to think we were. Okay, it's THACO. Thank you. Yeah. Is it drow or dro?
Drow is what we usually would refer to it as. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And there were things that we were told that we couldn't do. The big things we were told that we couldn't do is we could not invalidate like a ton of the first edition material, especially like modules and all this sort of stuff. That that stuff still had to be kind of like something you could use with second edition. It might take a little work, but you can use it, right? Because we had a warehouse full of this stuff, and our sales, marketing, and finance department were like basically like terrified that suddenly we would have like a mountain of product that they couldn't sell, which was would be bad, and so that established limits. So like there were things that I know that both Steve and I wanted to do, like right the armor class numbering from 10 down to negative something or other, right? Never made sense.
Yeah, descending armor class. Yeah.
It was like a naval, wasn't it like a naval miniature rule or something?
Yeah, it was something that had been brought over from various tabletop miniatures games, and never it was never expected that it would get into the level of negative number calculation and all the other things that got required that made it kind of cumbersome. But we had just said, make a whole lot more sense if we started from 1 and went up, right? And then we could just go up endlessly and it wouldn't, you'd have no problem. But that was like vetoed because that means like we got a whole bunch of product that becomes, much more difficult to use. So we're going to keep things kind of the way they are. And so a lot of it was, and at the time even I was explaining to groups that I'd talked to, that we're just trying to, in many ways, make a bunch of your house rules official, so that we know that you're doing these things when you play. We want them to basically put those in, and then everybody will have once again a kind of a standardized set to go from. So it was always intended to be something that flowed more or less seamlessly from first edition into second edition without requiring massive changes, as opposed to like when you get to second edition to third, where there were massive changes, but consequently it was very hard to use second edition material in a third edition of game without sitting down and spending a lot of time in advance.
And with second edition, and I stopped playing before second edition came out. Second edition, though, is that the one where the half orc is removed and demons and devils are?
Yeah.
So is that? And so I know that was controversial, right? So a lot of people, I guess, were mad about that.
I think it's controversial because people just wanted to be outraged about something in so many ways. I mean, frankly, we just renamed demons and devils. Yeah. We kept them. We just gave them different names because all we were doing was providing fodder for critics that wanted to bash D&D, and all we wound up doing was giving fodder for fans who wanted to bash D&D.
Well, yeah, and I don't have the original Player's Handbook, second edition. I don't think it's. My friend bought it, and we were within a year of that because I turned 20 in 1989, 1990, and we were like a lot of folks. It was the end of the hobby for us, and but a lot of folks continued. I remember reading because it's like second edition. What is this? I remember reading your preface, and you talk about because really what struck me was besides the evocative cover, it wasn't the gritty them plying the gems off. It was this big book, and your name was on it. That was and it's like the first time it really struck me as a 19-year-old that because I didn't understand the back. We know the history, but no one knew the history then. All it was, well, where's this Gary guy? Why is he not on the book? And is this a different game? And then you look through and like, no, it's not a different game. It kind of combined everything. And like you said, you put here, we collected, organizes all the things that you as players have been doing for years, just like you said. But what was that responsibility of really, being almost the way the face of AD&D was? Because whether you like it or not, you said there was a lot of people involved. It was your name who's the lead designer. Did you think that way, or because obviously Gary hired you, but now he's not with the company?
Yeah, well, I don't know if we thought like, wow, never thought, wow, I'm going to become the face of D&D or anything like that. Certainly not that. But there was definitely a lot of internally, my name was on it in terms of like the designer, but everything we did, we evaluated with a team of people. We had regular sit-down meetings with Jim Ward and all the designers and other and editors, and we'd kind of go like, okay, this is what we're planning to do, and there would be debate and argument and this sort of stuff. So it was something that was fashioned as I don't want to say consensus, because that will make it sound horrible and watered down, which it wasn't, but it was something that we were trying to make sure they were watching us to make sure we weren't going off the rails. That we were still trying to serve what it is that everybody could see. This is what D&D was supposed to be and be about. Also as part of it was to kind of get it back to that original Gary preface of, hey, these are guidelines, and these are not hard and fast absolute must play rules all the time. And that's the way I've always viewed the game, is a lot of it is just guidelines that you figure out how to best work for you. There was some strange, in Dragon Magazine between, AD&D and second edition, there was some strange, it must be absolutely this way kind of thing, arguments going on. And we wanted to kind of move away from those and get back to the, hey, this is your game, and, play it the way you should play it the way you want to play it.
And Zeb, so you stay there to 1994, which we've had other guests on the show, which unfortunately for them, they didn't get to stay that long. It sounds like you made it through those reductions in forces, which happened.
There were scary times in there, yeah.
Yeah, right. So, I assume, I assume that you were probably worried that you would be visited by somebody at some point and told you had to go. What was it like to not have Gary around anymore?
It's complicated. Gary hired us, but Gary had always been kind of, after the first few years, had always been kind of more involved in kind of management and we had design managers and stuff that were more or less running the design department, and then Gary had his own kind of like, I'm going to design these things over here, and so a lot of times it was never like, wow, we're working with Gary, and we almost never worked with Gary on a daily basis after a certain point. He was in charge of the company, and he had ultimate power to say, yes, this is what we're going to do, or no, this is not what we're going to do. Would look over products, not all of them, but would, products that were important, significant, he would look over. But you were often kind of, we were often very separate from him. He had his own kind of collection of people that he dealt with on a more regular basis. Many of them were not actually kind of officially, staff members, but were people who were contributing. I think the person who had the most daily contact with him turned out to be Frank Menser, of any of the actually on-staff design type people.
Because you're director.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, please continue.
No, I was going to say, I mean, early on when I got hired and stuff, I had a lot of contact with him, and so that's why I think that's why he trusted me on a lot of things, because he knew that I had we had worked together and spent a lot of time on things early on. So
Did
he
you
had
have
a better sense of who I was than a lot of the other designers.
Did you have the pleasure of going through some of his games? So did you get to see what he's like as a DM?
I only played in a couple of his games that he did, because by that point, he didn't. He had he had a regular gaming group initially, and so they were very tight, and and then as the company got bigger, he had less time for games in general, to run games, and when he did, he tended to kind of go towards the people who, if I was of his regular group. I played in a couple of them. One was, and Jim Ward was in this one also, where he basically, we all gathered up and we didn't create characters. He basically said, he turned off the lights, he turned on the lights again, and he said, "What are in your pockets?" And and literally, what was in your pockets, right? And we went through and kind of figured out what was in our pockets, and we had all fallen asleep and woken up in Greyhawk as us.
Oh,
And
I
we
heard
then
about
had to, we then had to like try and make our way kind of in the world. And as Jim said, it was ultimately the case in frustration, because we'd say like, "Oh yeah, well, we know science. Hey, we can do this." And he's like, and we'd present something, and then he'd go like, "Oh yeah, wizard, come over here. See, we can do that." It's like, "Oh great, fine, thanks." What?
So did Gary stat you? Was he like, "Yeah, okay, you need to do your
Kind
charisma's
of,
an 8"?
Yes. It didn't last. I mean, it only lasted a couple of sessions, and then it was like, "Yeah, this is not working for us."
I had not heard about that game.
That's-
That's a new one for me. James, do we have any chat questions
Yeah, I mean,
out there? I don't want to ignore chat people.
Yeah, there's we've got some folks, because you also worked on other outside of D&D games, as part of TSR. Were there other role-playing games that you worked on?
Oh yeah.
Like Indiana Jones was one of them. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, Indiana Jones, the Conan role-playing game.
And Bullwinkle.
Oh, my wife reminds me of the Bullwinkle and Rocky Party game,
Oh.
role-playing game.
Oh.
There you go, Dan. A Christmas present. I'll look forward to seeing that.
Yes.
Find that on eBay.
And
Probably $200 on eBay.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm worth it.
what?
I told Dan I'm worth it. He needs to go find that on eBay for me.
On eBay.
Yeah.
Hey, it's the only role-playing game I know of that has plastic hand puppets.
Awesome. I got to get that for me. Come on.
And of course,
Yeah.
and you did as your last hurrah. You did Planescape,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
As your last hurrah, which
Oh,
I know
yeah.
you're rightfully very proud of.
Oh yeah, well, there were a lot of people that contributed really wonderful things to that one. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to do, and it, has survived well. I think in some ways it's probably complete. In some ways, I look at it and realize, wow, as a setting, it's really interesting. But boy, it's kind of completely unplayable in many ways.
Well, much of
It's
this,
so
yeah.
weird, and it's a challenge to set up really a long-running campaign in it. But it was fun to do.
Well, I think,
And-
I think second edition, I didn't play a whole lot. I didn't play much of it. But the games that were, I really was moving into computer games. I'm an IT guy. And I really thought the future, it was a lot easier to play a computer game than try to get people together. And, second edition, so many of the campaign settings, whether it was Karatur, Dark Sun, Plains, Spelljammer, all these have lived on to where, now in 5th edition, everyone's like, okay, what's the next campaign setting are they going to steal from to bring forward, because it's so evocative. And I think it changed,
Well, that was the one of the things that happened, and in some ways that's one of the things that happened after Gary was no longer part of the company. Is prior to that, because Greyhawk was there and everything supposedly needed, should be part of, Greyhawk was the campaign setting, but it was Gary's campaign setting, which meant that anything that was going to go in Greyhawk had to be approved by Gary or had to come from Gary initially, one of the two. And he didn't approve a whole lot of stuff because he was very busy, and we had to put out a huge amount of stuff. And so consequently, there was actually very little support. There wasn't really an organized, like, here, we're going to do, 50 products for Greyhawk and build up, because that would have required Gary to like review and approve and do all this sort of stuff. And it just didn't happen. And so literally when we were getting towards the tail end of that, that's one of the reasons that Forgotten Realms got created, was we just needed a home to put all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that got created. And then once Gary left, suddenly that restraint of, it must be Greyhawk or not at all. In fact, Greyhawk was kind of out of the picture pretty much at that stage, meant that we had a whole bunch of very creative people who had kind of these suppressed, ambitions and desires and ideas. And so it was like pulling the cork off that bottle, and it's like, oh, wait, we could do all these really cool things. And then it was just a matter of convincing, you needed to convince the company to put it on schedule. And that led to this giant explosion of settings. And yeah, we ran it. We fell into this trap of creating too many settings so we couldn't support all of them. And some of them flew, some of them didn't. But yeah, it was in part the explosion of creativity we got from the staff designers, because we suddenly had the freedom to propose what we would like to do.
And interestingly, I noticed this. So I assume when you were a designer there, I assume the main person you reported to, I assume, was Lawrence Schick, correct?
Yeah, when it first started there, yeah, Lawrence was our basically our design director.
And then when you go to work for ZeniMax Online Studios, correct? And
yeah, yes.
and you find?
Well, actually, you missed a step in there.
Okay.
So Lawrence hired me into TSR. Basically, he was a design director, so he had to basically approve. Yes, we'll hire this guy. He looks good. So he hired me as a game designer. He left after like 4 or 5 years or something. I can't remember exactly when, and went off to work in the early in the video game industry. And then in '94, I got a call from Lawrence saying, "Hey, there's this video game. He's setting up a design group for this company that wants to get into video games. Would I be interested? He's got a project he thinks I'd like. Would I be interested in leaving TSR and going to do video games?" And I'd been TSR for 15 years. I'd done pretty much everything I could think of to do there. I was at the top of their design ladder, and there was not a whole lot growth room there. And the video game company was going to pay me better. So Lawrence hired me away from TSR, and I went to work for this video game company. Well, that place augured in after about a year and a half or so. But I was by that point now working in video games and moved and bounced around. So I bounced around in video game studios, did different projects from '94 to about 2009. I got hired in at ZeniMax. I go to work at ZeniMax, and I find who's got the office next to me but Lawrence, who had been hired there about 2 or 3 months before me.
It's come full circle.
Yes.
Can I, James, because I got a couple final questions. James, I don't know if you have anyone on the chat, though. I want to make sure we don't ignore it, because people were so excited to have Zeb on. I just want to make sure that if anyone out there has questions.
Obviously people are praising the work. 2E is for us 1 years, and you hate to do that, the edition wars, but I think it was more my issue that I was leaving, RPGs didn't leave me, I left RPGs at that point. So, but when I started playing video games, especially the, Baldur's Gate, that's a 2E, and kept that embers going to when, I got back into it. You look back at your career there, what's your greatest RPG accomplishment? Both, whether it's D&D or non-D&D, what do you say, wow, I'm so glad that was successful?
Probably, it's pretty safe to say probably 2E is like the certainly the biggest in the straight up just of a rules kind of a thing. And then settings wise, Planescape, simply because it's the one that all the elements just really came together pretty much in a way that really created a singular thing. I mean, we were so lucky to get Tony DiLizzi to do the art. I had great fun writing a completely strange setting, and even to the layout, kind of like it's like we wanted to embrace something that was just not what TSR normally would do, and that all worked, and actually worked in a way that was like, yeah, this isn't complete madness.
Did you work on the Marvel superhero game while you were there?
I wrote at least one adventure for it. The fourth module in the Flames of War series. It's the Dark Future Sentinels, imprisoned mutants kind of thing. It was the final module in the series. I think I wound up writing modules for everything except Gamma World, and I don't think I ever did a Ravenloft module. But for almost all the other games, I wound up writing at least something for them.
So, other than excluding Forbidden City and Isle of Dread, is there a D&D adventure that you're most proud of? So those two, of course, they make the top 30 list. Is there another one out that they're like, those two were good, but this is the one that I really am proudest of?
Wow, I have to sit here and think here a little bit. Definitely liked the Master of the Desert Nomads Temple of Death one that was done for Basic Expert, or I guess it was Expert, really. In part because it took this kind of impossible situation of, there's a giant army out there and you're sent off into war-torn lands, and how do we make a batch of adventures, kind of mesh with this big grand events, and felt that one worked really well. So that's another one that's a particular favorite of mine. And there's so many I can't remember. I can remember the ones that didn't work as well sometimes.
That's often true with people, right? You remember the things that didn't go well. You're probably too hard on yourself. What would you, as a designer? So many people, we enjoy writing our own adventures, of course. And people now, the great thing about it now is people can publish their own adventures quite easily in the internet age. What advice would you give to someone who wants to say I want to write an adventure? And I thought it was entertaining how, I think, was it Al Hammack who said back in the day, you had to be like 16 or 32 pages because that's the way they were printed. So we don't have those restrictions. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to write an adventure to make it good and memorable?
The first advice I have is go read a whole bunch of fantasy and pulp and all this other stuff. If you want it to be memorable, don't be afraid about stealing ideas from other people. Just don't copy their ideas. As people noted, the whole Dwellers of the Forbidden City definitely owes a lot to Robert E. Howard's Red Nails story, right? But because there, you're looking for what's the feel, what's the tone of that story. How can I recreate that in something that's similar-ish but still very different? It is not that story, and so read through, find what you like, and then say, okay, how can I make an adventure that feels like that has that feel? Don't copy the world, don't copy the thing, but capture the feel of it. And then if you haven't written an adventure before, lay out your ambitions, lay out your ideas, and then cut kind of ruthlessly. Because you will always have more ideas than you can fit. You'll have more ideas than actually belong together. A big part of it is figuring out, it's a box. A module is a box, essentially. What belongs in that box should, put in, and there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that's going to stick out in horrible angles, and just throw that stuff out. So that your job as a designer is to kind of create this package that all feels like it goes together. So, do your big plan and then say, well, that's a nice idea, throw it away. There's always another module. There's always another thing. So you can always save that idea for later. And ideas are the easiest part of the thing to come up with. It's then executing it so it's nice and polished and everything. That's the hard part.
Yeah, I remember. So we have a tournament that we run. We like to run each summer, and I remember mentioning to James because I had read the Conan stories, and there's a Conan story where he is alone. He's in prison. He's dumped in this dungeon, and it's all dark, and he's got to find his way out, and it's very creepy. And I said to James, "This would be amazing for an adventure." And James was basically, "Yeah, that's A4." Right? Someone has already come up with that idea, used it. So a real quick question too is who, if you're willing to say, do you remember whose idea it was to come up with the slavers? Because the slavers are now such an iconic part of Greyhawk and D&D. Do you remember who said, why don't we do slavers?
I think Lawrence was a lot of the initial driver of what the kind of general, broad scope plot might, it would be. He definitely had this idea for, A4 is all his. He had the idea. He knew exactly how he wanted things to end so he could do that adventure, right? And so, I think from that, he was very much in my memory, the kind of the architect of kind of the overall, here is the kind of big story. And then we figured out how to break it up and into parts and then do that part.
Okay. All right.
Well, going back to your non-D&D, a lot of people were fascinated that, TSR got Indiana Jones and Marvel and Conan. Do you recall, was that really hard to do at that time? Because nowadays these licenses would be, you have to sell your soul to get some of these.
Actually, no. I think at that time it really was. It was the harder part wasn't an issue of money or getting. The harder part was in many ways was convincing companies that it was even worth doing. That doing a Marvel, convincing Marvel that doing a role playing game was worth the time it would take them to review and approve and all that sort of stuff. That it would be beneficial to them, and because at that point, the whole idea that there was this big crossover between role players and other kind of cultural forms still was not really a well-established thing. These days, people believe that geeks now rule the world, or that fans are all that and it has become much more of a dominant kind of hey. When you put out something, you're not putting out just, I'm going to put out a comic book anymore. It's look at hey, what's the whole package you want to do here? So the hard part with Marvel was we had to actively kind of go to them and say, look, this is something that will benefit you guys. This will be, it'll be good for you. It'll be, and Jeff Grubb was really a big kind of champion for that on the design side. With Indiana Jones, it was Indiana Jones was kind of a nightmare because they were like, yeah, we've got a movie coming out. You guys can do a game thing while we do role-playing games. Okay, great. We'll do, essentially kind of, sold them on the idea of that role-playing game. And then they discovered what role-playing games were, and that was not what they wanted in the sense because it's like, what? What do you mean they get to make their own characters? No. They have to play they can only play approved.
I want to be the third Nazi. I want to be
and somebody had to play. You could have Marion, or you could have Short Round, right. And you can play Short Round, but they would not approve the idea of that there was a player character generation system, and so we had to toe that line. Except that there is a very detailed NPC creation system in the back. That hopefully, all we can hope is that people would pick up that clue. And
wink, wink.
Yeah.
but we couldn't say, here, you play, it was a role-playing game. First thing you do is create your character, because that was completely out with them. Consequently, yeah, that game did not do well. Later on, Lucas, they had the Star Wars thing. They went to West End, and they had no trouble at that point. Talked with Bill Slavicsek, that by that point, Lucas figured that out. Oh, these are role-playing games. They're not, it's other things. So they benefited from our experience, I guess.
Does that come just from it's almost similar to what, like you said, with Gary and Greyhawk. It's this parochial, proprietary, this is my world, and we have this vision, and we don't, whereas now it's more, if you can extend the property, as long as it's in the milieu, great, that's more.
Oh, don't think that it's still that easy. I mean, they are proprietary in a way that is, they're super careful. Everything has to get approved. Everything has to be reviewed. Everything, if you're dealing with like Marvel, or if you're dealing with like LucasArts or stuff, they have whole now, people just assigned to dealing with these kinds of problems, right? Or these issues, because, they're not going to let anything that goes out that doesn't match what their overall kind of like vision and kind of like plans are for stuff. So, this is why there's the endless like controversies about, expanded universe and what's canon and what isn't canon in stuff in Star Wars. And the Marvel tends to be equally as careful, especially when it relates to the movie properties, because, there is so much money involved there.
It feels like college football in some way, because people want, the controversy sometimes drives some of this, because the casual fan doesn't. The casual fan doesn't know, oh, wait a minute, Spider-Man's part of Avengers. Why is he, until someone told them, oh, that's what happens. Okay, great. It's of the millions of people who went to see those movies, how many of them really knew from the comics some of this and the Sony issue and all that? It's controversy for controversy's sake. Last question we have online is, like you mentioned, the Geeks One, you've got the Russo, and John, they've credited so much of their work to, being influenced and playing the games that you wrote. Do you think it's, how do you feel when you hear that, that these folks who, leading our culture in many ways, creative forces, they accredit you into and your work that you've done?
Well, of course, I'm pretty pleased to hear. I'm pleased to hear that. I'm not, a lot of times you hear like, oh, I played D&D, scriptwriter who learned, will say, kind of learned how to do this stuff by playing D&D. And it's not like he learned how to write. He learned how to write because he was, theoretically a good writer or something like that. But, what you learned all that as a kid is you learned how to tell a story to somebody in a way that would get their attention. And keep them paying attention. That's really cool. I love that. And how do I feel about it? Like I said, it's great. I do wish they had paid me more back then.
And your wife deserves a shout out. I don't know if this was mentioned expressly, but she encouraged you, if I recall correctly, to apply for the job, right?
Well, she certainly was. She's
She nodding?
Yeah, she's agreeing to this.
Oh, so
if she had disapproved, I would never have done it. Yeah, that's certainly the case.
If she's monitoring this call, if there's a safe word, you can just let us know what the, because she's obviously off camera. So it's
yes.
Are
you
you
okay?
in danger? Do you need help? It's just
we need to call somebody. That's James's wife.
That's right. Yeah, my wife would be like, "What's going on?" Actually, do you know what the inspiration of the Drow was? Do you know who inspired that?
Well, that I'm pretty much. My impression has always been that was a Gary creation. It's possibly with some interaction from other people. It was created before I was started at TSR, because that was in the original. Series of modules that they did back when they were discovering, hey, we can print these things and sell them. So, I never sat down with Gary and said, "Hey, did you create Drow?" But he was, it was definitely of the set of modules that he was, directly responsible for in many ways. The
Do you have strong feelings one way or the other about Unearthed Arcana?
Wait a minute, you can't use that word.
Really.
Oh, sorry. He wouldn't know what I was talking about. I'm sorry, what's up?
Obviously, I removed some stuff from it that we did not use some stuff from it when we went to second edition, so I have some strong feelings about those. But overall, I mean, it was what we needed to do at the time, which was we had to start, expanding the whole idea that we could do more of these hardback book kind of things, as opposed to just, churning out modules and, character record sheets and that sort of thing.
The last thing is we have Bucky says he wants to just thank you. He will play second edition till he dies, he said. So
well, thank you. Well, live long.
That's right, live long. So have you kept up with the editions? I mean, do you follow that process after you left?
I dropped out like many people. I dropped out of role playing for quite a while when I went off to video games. There was too much work to do. And, frankly, I'd been playing, working in role-playing games for like 15 years. I looked at 3 and 3.5, and frankly, the rules were just way too complicated for me to feel like I really wanted to play them. So I avoided those. But then with 5e coming back out, it's gone now kind of full circle back around towards much more of an approach that I would take. This is more accessible. This is, and so I've played a bit of 5e, and I find that the rules are pretty good. I mean, it does what I think the rules need to do, and it doesn't try to do all the things that I don't think the rules need to do.
And so if they said, well, we need a 6e, because you came in after, what would be the number one thing in a 6e?
I'm not getting into that fight again.
Yeah,
he's out.
He's not even going to start that conversation of what was 60.
No, that's for other people, younger people than me.
Very good, very good. Go ahead, Dan.
No, and I was just going to say, before, we certainly want to give a shout out to Steve Herring, one of our listeners, who was instrumental in contacting Zeb
thank you,
and getting
Steve.
him on
Awesome.
the show. So I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledge our appreciation for Steve doing that.
So I talked to Zeb last night, and I was going to say, hey, you can promote your, what you're doing now, and he said, well, I'd appreciate that, but I'm on everyone's on a need-to-know basis. So if people have questions on social media, or how can people reach out to you if you're on social media?
Well, I have a Facebook page, which is cunningly under the name David Zeb Cook.
Hard to find.
Which people can certainly post messages to that, and I try to remember to look at them. And that's probably the easiest way at this point. I'm not super active on social media stuff because I'm an old guy.
And you have a life, which is because it's a time suck. Do you still go to? You mentioned you DM at conventions, or are you a pretty frequent convention goer? I mean, obviously with the pandemic, that's an issue now.
Well, I'm not a frequent one this year, that's for sure. Yeah. Normally, I go to there about 2 or 3 that I normally try to go to regularly. Then that would have been Gary Con, and then North Texas RPG Con, and sometimes Game Hole. And those are the ones that I would normally go to because I A, know the people involved, and B, I think they're all very well-run conventions. And then I also these days do a lot of miniatures gaming, and so I go off to play miniatures games.
Oh, that'd be perfect. That sounds like he could go to GROGTALK at Crucible, where we have in October. I know this year may be off because we all may be dead by October, but if we do survive, we do well. Someone's got to be half empty. Dan's the half full. He's positive we're all going to die. I'm saying we might die, but we do. They have a miniature play in that, so we'll have to see if we can get him down here one of these years. That'd be great.
Oh, and Zeb, did you stay in contact with Gary And do you remember the last time you spoke with Gary before his passing?
I did not stay in contact. I mean, with second edition, there was always something of a little bit of a, I wouldn't say hostility. It wasn't hostility, but there was always a little bit of an awkwardness at that point. He did at one point try to hire me away to go work for, what was it, TRPG, the company he was setting up after he left TSR, and I ultimately didn't take that offer, but yeah, we were always more kind of like ran into each other at conventions, we'd say hello and that sort of thing, but yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. Favorite module, not that you wrote, but that somebody else wrote. Do you have one? That if you had to run somebody else's, what reminded me of is, Gary said, I think he loves King's Despot or whatever, the good King Despot or something like that. He's famous for saying was his favorite module that he didn't write. Is there one that you can think of?
I think it was a Cthulhu module, Horror on the Orient Express.
Yeah.
Simply because trapping them all on a train was way too much fun.
Got it. All right.
And also because I ran that for a group of people who over many sessions, and we all played. It was and it all worked out very well. So I have a fondness for that one.
Very good. Okay.
Well, worked out well, and Call of Cthulhu means only like most of them all died.
But
the other ones were insane.
That's right. Yeah. I'm only insane. Yay!
Yes, it's a win.
Well, Zeb, it's been a real pleasure on behalf of the listeners who are around the world. They really thank you for your contributions, and they wish you the best. And stay safe where you and your missus.
And James, we got to do a roll.
That's right.
Don't forget,
that is absolutely correct. So we have a tradition. We roll a D10 if you have a D10, to see how well the episode is. 1, it was a train wreck, and we're sorry we wasted your time. 10. This will go in the annals of history of interviewing.
They're searching. We forgot to warn them to have a.
I'm looking for a D10. I don't have one.
This is another final test.
Right, and this is.
Does our guest have a?
There are dice scattered in random
This is also an homage to you, because initiative is D10 in second edition, which is obviously a change.
I could do the old fallback, which is I find a book and I just flip through and look at the last number.
I hadn't thought about that. All right, let's do it.
Anything random.
That's old school.
That is really
friend.
old. Do you have any chits?
10 books.
Do you have any?
Wow, I got
8. Perfect. That is very good. We like that. 8. Congratulations.
What book was that?
That was the Ultimate Thai Cookbook.
Ooh. I would like some Thai food.
Whatever page you open it, you must make that meal now.
8. Excellent. Well, yeah. That's some Thai food would be great. Now we can finally get out and go some places. So that'll be nice to do that.
And we're still being careful in Maryland.
Well, here it's every person for themselves. We just try not to hug each other anymore. What's the joke? It's not that the thing has changed. It's just they have room in the ICU now for you. So that's what they're basically saying. But you and the missus, please be safe. We wish you the best up there. Thank you for your time today. It was really our pleasure to have you on today.
Oh, this has been a fun morning. I've had a good time.
Hi.
Thank you, Zeb. It's been a pleasure.
You can see her elbow.
I saw we got an elbow. That's right. Well, thank you. We really appreciate everyone your time here and the contributions. And if you're ever allowed to speak about the products that you're working on, you want to come back on, just shoot us a note. We'd be happy to have you on, and we'll be happy to promote that and talk about it.
I will do that.
That would be great. So on behalf of GROGTALK, I'm James.
And I'm Dan.
And we will see you next time on GROGTALK. Take care.